This is Adam Graham from Pretty Much the Present, bringing you a week of old-time radio podcasts. These episodes were originally released back in 2011, and we're releasing them here pretty much as is, with only some extraneous bits such as the opening from all of the episodes after the first episode removed. Because these are old, it should be noted that any offers or promotions mentioned in the episode may not be valid unless they're currently mentioned on the Great Detectives website. Here now is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Be sure to cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives. Before we do get started, I do want to let you know that at greatdetectives.net we post an article or two every weekend, and these are topics I think our listeners would be less interested in. They include detective book reviews, the golden age of radio, television, and film, and just some pretty interesting articles. We've been digging up some long-forgotten old-time radio shows, sharing some information about it. So you can find that every weekend at greatdetectives.net. You can also have updates delivered automatically to your Kindle, and you can try that out for the first 2 weeks free. Just go to Amazon and put Great Detectives of Old Time Radio as a search in the Kindle store, and you can begin your free trial. Well, today's episode of Barrie Craig is called The Paper Bullet.
William Gargan stars as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
The old saying, early to rise, folks, can't possibly mean a thing to a corpse.
Your Pontiac dealer presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. The trick in continuing on as a confidential investigator is to keep on good terms with the police. Comes time for your license renewal, and a department sawhead can louse it up for you. Play footsie with a corpse, conceal evidence, rack up as many black marks as you must, but be sure you've got a friend somewhere in the higher echelons. High, say, like a lieutenant, willing to countersign your renewal application, where it reads character references.
Ah, the fool that I am, Craig, endorsing your application.
Your signature goes down here, Trav. No blotting now. Right neat.
Certifying you as a man of good character. However will I atone for the perjury?
The guilt get too much for you. I can refer you to a high bridge.
Okay, I've signed. You're free to harass and otherwise misuse and abuse me for 12 more months.
I'm looking forward to it, chum. I'd start in right away if I had a case.
Oh, don't tell me the great man's idle.
1 meal away from pawning my badge. Unless you've got an idea.
I get the hint. Even if I could, why should I throw anything your way?
Because you hate seeing me fall dead from hunger. So what case did you have in mind?
2 cases. You even have a choice. Both of them prefer a confidential operative to official police methods, official notoriety. I was asked to recommend someone.
I'm all ears.
Case 1. A Mrs. Cora Talbot wants help in finding her husband, Stanley Talbot. Talbot's been missing more than 6 years.
What's her motive in looking for him now?
Oh, a last-ditch search. She's about lost hope that he'll ever return. She wants to petition to have him declared legally dead so she can remarry. Interested?
How big a fee?
$20 a day in expenses.
Kind of anemic.
It's all the lady can afford. Is it no?
What's my alternative?
A publisher named Hilary Grayson. He ran a best first novel contest, $50,000 to the winner.
And?
The prize-winning manuscript was stolen, very mysteriously.
What's it worth to Grayson to get the manuscript back?
A flat $2,000. So, which of the two has you seething with a desire to see justice done?
Well, I don't want to be mercenary.
Then you'll accept Mrs. Cora Talbot. I'll call and tell her.
Call and tell publisher Grayson. It's not on account of the higher tab. The fact is, I've been a long time wanting to raise my cultural level. The publisher Grayson had more body than any one guy needed. 3 sets of jowls and thick eyeglasses. Looking into his eyes was like watching fish in an aquarium bowl.
Get that manuscript back, Mr. Craig. Spare no effort or expense. If the manuscript isn't recovered, I'll be the jackass of the publishing world.
Hold on a minute, Grayson. You're forgetting I don't know what it's all about. I just got here.
Yes. I suppose I should give you the facts.
It would be helpful.
The prize-winning book manuscript, The Cry of the Hyena, by Eric Trent, was stolen right out of my office.
That's bad?
Catastrophic. It was the only copy in existence. The author has no carbon duplicate.
How come? Writers usually make copies.
Usual writers usually do. But this is no usual writer. This is Eric Trent. Here's his photograph.
I get what you mean by this one not being usual. Does he always wear chin whiskers?
Yes. Trent's a brilliant eccentric. A man who's roamed every corner of the world. A wanderer who wrote one page here, another page there. 6 years in the writing and more than 1,000 pages.
And no carbon. First prize was $50,000?
Yes.
Were there other awards?
One other. $5,000, a second prize.
One by?
Oscar Sachs for his novel, 4 Devils and a Midget. Oh, this is a photograph of Oscar Sachs.
Well, this one's clean-shaven. Can I talk out of turn, or are you the sensitive type?
Ask me whatever you like.
$55,000 in prize money. Isn't that a lot of cabbage for a
small publisher?
Your offices haven't exactly got that mahogany and chromium look.
The prize money doesn't really come from me.
It doesn't?
An independent motion picture company, Pyramid Pictures. They pay the prizes in exchange for world rights to film the book. Any more questions?
Yes. How many offices are there in this suite?
6. Why do you ask that?
I'm already in there pitching for you. That intercommunications box on your desk. Is every office equipped with one?
Yes, of course, but I don't...
The box is switched on, as you'll notice. It's been on through this whole talk we've just had. Who in the Grayson Publishing House would be interested in long-range eavesdropping?
I don't know.
Suppose I find out. But I didn't find out. The eavesdropper resented my curiosity with all his might. An inkwell pitched at me.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you driven a great new 1952 Pontiac? Until you do, you cannot possibly appreciate what Pontiac's dual-range performance really means. Only with your own hands on the wheel, your own foot on the accelerator of a Pontiac, can you know what it means to select with a flick of a finger exactly the power you want. Tremendous get-up-and-go in traffic, or smooth, easy-going, gas-saving cruising on the open road. The great new Pontiac gives you this kind of performance because Pontiac has, for the first time, combined the 3 essentials of top-flight performance in one great car. First, a terrific high-compression Pontiac engine. Second, the wonderful new General Motors dual-range hydromatic drive. Third, Pontiac's new high-performance economy axle. It's this great powertrain which makes dual-range performance, giving you exactly the power you want, when you want it, where you want it. Remember, only the new Pontiac has dual-range performance. Only your Pontiac dealer can show you this engineering masterpiece. Before you consider any new car, be sure you visit your nearest Pontiac dealer. See the new Pontiac. Drive it yourself. You won't be very many miles down the road before you heartily agree that dollar for dollar, you can't beat a Pontiac. And now back to Barrie Craig.
Opened on Grayson, sprinkling water on me with a sponge.
You're all right.
Quit watering me. I'm not a petunia bed.
But you were unconscious.
I'm conscious now, and you're ruining my suit.
It's ruined anyhow, the ink from the inkwell.
Don't tell me. Red ink yet. My fee's gone up, Grayson.
Up?
$2,000 plus $49.75, the price of this suit. A while later, on the street outside the Grayson offices, a motorist tooted me over. A long-hair driving a sky blue pink jalopy. I let him pick me up. You paging me, friend?
Yes, I'd like to talk to you.
What about?
If you'll get in, we can go somewhere. I'll buy you a drink.
Oh, buttermilk. There's a buttermilk bar over on 8th Avenue. In the buttermilk bar, we had a chat for the books.
I'm Oscar Sachs.
I know that. I saw the photograph of you in the Grayson publishing offices.
Oh? Well, there's some facts about the book contest I think you should know.
Why?
Why? You've been engaged by Mr. Grayson to locate Trent's missing manuscript.
What am I wearing, a sandwich sign?
I obtained the information through sources I cannot disclose.
Give me those facts.
I won the second prize of $5,000, but I was cheated.
Cheated out of the big money, is it?
Yes.
Explain, please.
The contest rules clearly specified that the award was to be made only to an American author.
And?
I have reason to believe Eric Trent is an Englishman, or anyhow other than an American. To put it bluntly, a fake who should be disqualified.
Disqualified while you're moved up to first place and $50,000?
Yes.
Let's have your bill of particulars.
Well, for one thing, Trent's way of talk. It's as English as the House of Parliament. Another thing, Trent was somewhere overseas on a tramp island, an English possession, when he sent the manuscript in.
That summarizes it?
Well, there's more. Trent has a tattoo on his right arm. I happened to get a good look at it. It's a tattoo of the British flag. Would an American wear the British flag on his arm?
They tell me Benedict Arnold did. You're really out to grab yourself 50 G's.
Well, why do you find that so odd, Craig?
Just that I thought artists had no money sense.
Well, I have, and I'm not apologizing for it.
Okay, I've got your point of view, Oscar. Oh, yes, one little thing remains. Hold out your hand.
Hold out
Do
my...
what Papa asks. Red ink smudges on your right thumb. You've been playing with inkwells, Sonny.
Oh, Craig, I didn't mean...
Don't apologize. Fun's fun. And I like to play myself. My interest runs to sugar bowls.
Oh, Craig, no! No! Oh.
Eric Trent's address, furnished me by Grayson, was a rickety studio walk-up. 7th Heaven in Bohemia, Greenwich Village. The door opened on a blonde who eyed you as if she was already counting your money.
Hiya.
Hello. This is 6D, isn't it?
That's what it says on the door.
It's my astigmatism. Is Eric Trent in?
No, but I am.
Baby, I'm not a gentleman caller.
So who's tough luck, would you call it? Come in. Trent said for you to wait if you simply had to see him.
Trent expected me?
Yeah. That Mr. Grayson, the publisher, he phoned and said you might be over. You're Barrie Craig, the detective, he said.
Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
I'm Judy. Judy Joy. Well, come on in. I won't bite you.
I was waiting for you to make that promise.
I live right next door in 6E. I come in here to play the radio. Mine's out of order.
Oh.
That's Bummy Fiegelspann's orchestra you're hearing.
Oh.
It's on every day this hour.
Mm-hmm.
I get simply dilapidated if I miss hearing Bummy.
Come again. Did you say dilapidated?
Yeah. Dilapidated, like frazzled. You know, fractured. Or were you correcting me on the words?
Oh, no.
Eric's always correcting me on the words. imagine me keeping company with a real live author type?
Sure I can. I can even imagine 50,000 reasons.
Huh? What'd you say? Oh, there's Eric now. Eric?
Ah, Judy.
On the sofa's Barrie Craig, the investigator. I've been keeping him here for you.
Thank you, Judy. Now, if you'll leave us alone.
Sure. I got a slip to press anyhow. Nice meeting you, Mr. Craig.
I was floored myself.
Excuse me while I shut off the musical background. Now, Mr. Craig, the object of this visit?
Your stolen brainchild, what else?
But what can I do about it? I submitted it in good order. I'm not responsible for its disappearance.
How come only one copy? Why didn't you type up a carbon duplicate?
I have no patience with purely clerical details. I'm an artist.
But the full risk of losing the one copy.
I'm a man who takes risks, Craig. In my years abroad, away from America, I've lived a life of risks.
Skip the personal build-up.
Wherever I went, I traveled lightly. Suit on my back, pipe tobacco, and a pencil. It was enough of a nuisance carting one copy of 1,000 pages around. And how was I to know my confounded book would ever get to a publisher, much less win a prize?
Okay for that. What's your, guess on the missing manuscript?
Grayson.
What motive?
A stunt. Grayson intends exploiting this whole affair for all the publicity he can wring out of it.
It's an angle. The 50,000, would you say you, won it legitimately?
Legitimately?
I mean, what if you were to be disqualified as the first prize winner, say on a technicality?
What technicality?
Not actually being of American origin, as the contest rules specify.
But I am an American.
With a British accent?
I spent years in the islands, in Jamaica and British Somaliland.
I'm told you have a tattoo of the British flag on your right arm.
So? Well, I sailed the 7 seas, and like a sailor, I had myself decorated with tattoos.
But the British flag on an American citizen.
Ah, wait until I open my shirt. There. Are you looking at the tattoo on my chest, Mr. Craig?
Yeah, the American eagle. What do you know? Expand your chest, genius.
Expand my...
I want to see old Baldy flap his wings. The first break in the case developed over the phone. I was in my office, soaking my feet. Barrie Craig speaking.
Craig, this is Grayson.
What gives?
It's about the stolen manuscript. Listen carefully.
Shoot.
A hoodlum named Mike Kelsey got in touch with me. He admitted to stealing the manuscript.
Why did he?
A mistake, he says. He was under the impression that it was valuable. A rare manuscript.
Believe that.
He wants to return it now and no questions asked.
How much loot is he after?
$1,000.
It's paying ransom, compounding a felony.
I must have the manuscript back, Craig. I told him to negotiate the transfer through you. You're representing me in the matter.
Where's the 1,000?
I'm sending the money over to you in cash by messenger. You're to meet this Mike Kelsey in a tavern. The Flying Horse. Craig, be discreet.
Sure, I'll be discreet. The cash came by messenger, okay, and I got to negotiate in the Flying Horse Tavern. A mug with heavy artillery bulging his coat, waiting at a table for me. You Mike Kelsey?
No, I'm, McGuire. I'm here for Mike. You're negotiating for Grayson, so I'm here negotiating for Mike Kelsey. Now, let's negotiate without any monkey business, Craig.
Why a gun under both armpits, Buster?
So as I don't develop a stoop on one side?
Oh.
Now, here's your manuscript. Right in the wrapping Mike Kelsey found it in. Now, count me out a fast grand.
Here, $1,000. Count it yourself.
Yeah, it seems okay. Don't be stupid enough to stop me from leaving.
The publisher, Grayson, was out. Would I please call later, a secretary told me. I'd gone back to my office to cool my heels for a while when the phone rang. Barrie Craig speaking.
Craig, this is Oscar Sachs.
Now what's your beef?
Craig, I've discovered something I think you'll want to know.
Something that will promote you into the 50 Gs?
Something that won't help Eric Trent any. Craig, the man's a fraud.
You're playing a cracked record, Junior.
Am I? Come hear me out and then tell me that.
All right, I'll come hear you out. As soon as I dry my feet and rustle up a change of socks. I didn't get to hear Sachs out. To achieve that, I'd first have to perfect a way of communicating with the dead. I left Oscar Sachs as I found him, sprawled backwards over a writer's desk, a knife standing vertically in his Adam's apple. I left him as is, so Lieutenant Trav Rogers wouldn't howl to heaven and the DA that I'd once more tampered with a corpse. Grayson drooled with joy supreme over the recovered manuscript.
This is a load off my mind, Craig. A big load.
But it solves nothing. Who stole it and why? And why was Sachs murdered between the time he phoned me and the time I got to his flat? I'll show you the manuscript, Grayson, and then I've got a question. Here. Examine it and then tell me. Is this the same manuscript that was stolen?
The same? Why, sure it is. The Cry of the Hyena by Eric Trent.
Examine the manuscript, not just the title page. Study a few sample pages.
Yeah. It's the same.
You'll swear to that?
On a stack? No. No, I won't swear.
You've detected something? Some changes?
Yes. I think yes. For one thing, this copy is cleaner. The edges of the pages aren't so ragged from handling.
As you remember them to have been?
Yes, even the title page looks altered now. I remember a burn here in the upper right corner near the author's name. A burn like from an accidental cigarette ash.
I'm convinced. This isn't the copy that was stolen.
But what can it mean?
I aim to find out. Grayson.
Yes?
Phone Eric Trent. Get him to come here to your office on some pretext.
But why?
So I can have the run of his studio without Trent being the wiser or being present. Eric Trent had all the accumulated junk of a guy with a passion for changing climates. Souvenirs from Bombay, the Dutch Indies, Labrador. Souvenirs in brass, carved ivory, porcelain. And in the bottom bureau drawer, a manuscript. The Cry of the Hyena, with a cigarette burn on the title page. Eric Trent had stolen his own manuscript. I had the evidence in hand, but keeping it wasn't going to be so simple. A lady was against it. A lady healed with a gun twice the size of her dainty lotioned hand. Miss Judy Joy.
Yes, Mr. Craig. It's Judy Joy.
Through the convenient connecting door?
I heard noises in here, and I made it just in time to catch a burglar. Drop that manuscript.
You charm me into it. Want a word of advice, beautiful?
No.
I thought you would. Ring off Eric Trent as fast as you can flick your glamorous eyebrows.
You're crazy.
Being true to Trent's an awful waste of war paint. Now...
What are you trying to tell me?
That Trent's value on the hoof has just been slashed by about $50,000.
He won't get the money?
Neither will you get the money.
You're a liar.
The Dutch uncle. I'd hate to see you dragging your gorgeous chassis up the river Sundays, visiting ye author in the big house.
Pour me a drink.
Still making with the gun?
Aimed at your head while we wait for Eric. The stuff's on that coffee table there. The soda bottle's right alongside it.
Okay, I'll play bartender. Say when.
When?
How much soda?
Just a squirt. That's enough.
Spot more, huh? Just enough to dampen your spirits? Had enough?
She's no good. Roll down.
We held an all-night session. Me, Lieutenant Trav Rogers, and Grayson, comparing the two manuscripts page for page. It was early dawn before I found a discrepancy between the two versions.
You found something, Craig?
Yes, Trav. A Cora Lane's disappeared from the substituted version.
Who's Cora Lane?
Tell him, Grayson.
Cora Lane is a character who appears early in the novel. A woman the hero meets and falls in love with.
She's in version 1. She's out of version 2.
Now, why would the author go to all the trouble he did, submitting a manuscript and then stealing it back just to write a character out of the book?
Because the name Cora Lane means something. Something he didn't want found out.
Means what?
Cora Lane was a character, say, drawn from real life. She's a real name, a real person somewhere.
Excuse me, Mr. Craig. They're saying that Trent only realized it when it was almost too late to make the change.
One thing's pretty clear to me, Grayson. Eric Trent didn't write the book. Somebody else did.
Who would you say did write the book, Craig?
The hero of the story is my guess. Stanley Fields. Only that name is probably an invention, or Eric Trent would have changed it. It figures. The book is an autobiographic work. A man's true personal history disguised as fiction.
The personal history of someone Trent stole the manuscript from.
Someone now dead, or Trent would never have dared to try for the big prize. Trav?
Yes.
Arrest Eric Trent. Book him for the murder of Oscar Sachs.
You're sure?
Sachs tumbled to some of the truth, and Trent shut him up. Trent was also behind the Mike Kelsey red herring. That was a trick to throw dust in our eyes. Arrest Trent, Lieutenant. And when that little chore's over, check police files and directories for a Cora Lane. Go to it, Trav. On this one, I'm making you a gift of the headlines.
Ladies and gentlemen, when a great reporter wants to get the inside story of a great new car, he gives it a thorough test run. That's exactly what John Daly did with the new Pontiac. Here he is to tell you some of the outstanding facts of the new 1952 Pontiac and its spectacular dual-range performance.
This is John Daly to tell you about a great advancement in automobile performance. The great new 1952 Pontiac with spectacular new dual-range performance. A number of factors contribute to this sensational new kind of driving. Pontiac has combined a powerful high-compression engine, new dual-range hydromatic drive, and high-performance economy axle into an amazing powertrain that gives you tailor-made performance. At the touch of a finger, you can have tremendous acceleration and get up and go for any occasion. With equal ease, you can choose a different type of performance, quiet, economical cruising for the open road. Drive the new 1952 Pontiac with dual-range performance on display at your Pontiac dealer now. It's spectacular new proof that dollar for dollar you can't beat a Pontiac.
The great new 1952 Pontiac with dual-range performance is on display now at your nearest Pontiac dealer. See it. Drive it as soon as you can. And now, back to Barrie Craig.
It took 2 days for Trav to get back to me. When he did, he had a lady with him. A gray lady with haunted eyes.
This is Cora Lane, Craig. Cora Lane, Barrie Craig.
Mr. Craig.
How do you do? How did you find her, Trav?
Police files. The name of Cora Lane appeared on an old record card. She reported her husband missing some years back.
Stanley, my husband. He left one morning, never returned. I was frightened. I imagined him injured, a traffic victim. I didn't know then that my husband had planned to just disappear, that he couldn't live in my world, that he had so much wanderlust.
Her husband was the Stanley in the book. The author of it, as you theorized, Craig.
Your husband was a writer?
Yes, a writer all through him. Foolish, wild, irresponsible, and wonderful, too. Is he dead?
Tell her, Trav.
Yes, he's dead.
Oh.
According to Eric Trent's confession, your husband died of a tropical disease somewhere in the Pacific. Eric Trent was a drifter your late husband had taken up with. An odd thing, Craig.
What odd thing?
I offered you one of two cases the other day.
Why bring that up now?
You took one, but you solved both.
What?
Cora Lane is the maiden name of Mrs. Stanley Talbot. Mrs. Cora Talbot.
Not the $20 a day in expenses deal I passed up.
Yes. As it turned out, you found her missing husband.
A gray lady, Trav, and all-around loser.
Her life hasn't been good.
Her life needs fixing. Mrs. Talbot?
Yes, Mr. Craig.
We're taking a ride, you and me.
A ride?
Cross town. You've been poor, but now you're rich. That book of your husband's, The Cry of the Hyena, there's $50,000 coming to you. And I'm going to stand over Grayson while he makes out that check. Good night, folks. See you next week.
You have been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, The Paper Bullets, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story of Death and the Purple Cow, about which Barrie Craig has this to say.
Next week, I lose a client before I get him. A man dies in a hamburger joint, and a purple cow turns out to be neither a cow nor purple. See you next week, folks.
Featured in the role of Judy was Barbara Weeks. Barrie Craig, starring William Gargan, was under the direction of Hyman Brown. This is Don Pardo speaking.
Now enjoy Meredith Wilson's Music Room on NBC.
Welcome back. Well, that was a nice way to tie things together. Of course, this episode is interesting for us getting to hear an episode of Barrie Craig that was actually sponsored by someone. In this case, the Chrysler Corporation. And this is somewhat of an oddity in radio that had begun to happen as television took flight, where you have a one-week sponsorship, which they're not going to be back next week, at least not according to the notes on the Radio Gold Index. And I heard another one-week sponsorship, the only 1 week of the Harold Perry Show was sponsored. There are also a few Barrie Craigs that were sponsored by Bromoseltzer that we'll get, but usually it was a sustaining effort without any network sponsorships. Well, that actually leads into some additional post-show discussion, and that's regarding sponsorships. In the past, we have had some advertising sponsors who we would mention their product and then they would pay us based on the number of downloads, which worked out fairly well when we had those sponsorships in place. But with the tightness of the economy, online advertising has had some issues. And so, in lieu of that, we'll present the affiliate advertisings that we normally do at the start of the program for JohnnyDollarAir.com, for Netflix, for Audible. We appreciate everybody who uses those, but those have limited revenue opportunities, particularly Audible and Netflix, which of course are subscription services that you can just get once. I have been thinking that there may be a better way to do this, and I'd like to get your feedback. The model that occurred to me was that of a lot of community TV and radio stations that rely and ask for audience support through pledge drives and that sort of thing. And this might be a better model in the long run than sort of the advertising model we've been working on. And if we did such a drive, we could even provide special thank you gifts purchased from radioarchives.com for those who provided larger donations. And to be clear, we definitely don't do this show for the money, whether we have money coming in or not. It's my intention, as long as I'm able, to continue to do these podcasts. But my overall goal is to be able to focus my life on my writing and on my podcasting, which we currently aren't able to do just because of the demands of full-time job. Because I've had several ideas for podcasts I'd like to do. I thought it'd be great to do an American history old-time radio podcast. It'd be great to do a science fiction one, or to do an adventure series. And I've thought through some of the specifics, and then I've come back and said, yeah, but where am I going to find the time to be able to get to do them? So writing, podcasting, well, money that comes in from that is kind of focused into moving my life into a direction where I can focus on these things more, where my passion and interest lie. And of course, I want to hear from you. What you think of this idea? And we're not going to change anything major with the show without hearing from the audience, so I appreciate your feedback, and thanks so much for listening to this. Much appreciated. We will be back tomorrow with Rogues Gallery. Before we get started today, I want to let you know about Audible. Audible allows you to keep up with your reading even while you're on the go. You can enjoy the latest New York Times bestseller or your favorite classic while walking, jogging, commuting, or doing any of the things that you would normally do that would make it impossible to be able to read. With your Audible membership, you get one audiobook a month plus a 30% discount on additional titles. Go to audibletrial.com/greatdetectives, start your free trial, and get a free audiobook. That's audibletrial.com/greatdetectives. Now it's time for today's episode of Rogues Gallery, A Will in Question.
The F.W. Fitch Company, makers of Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo and Fitch's shaving creams, presents Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogues Gallery.
Rogue speaking. First off, today being Thursday and things being the way they are, I want to thank my Aunt Beulah for sending me those pork chops from Barlow, Kentucky. She doesn't know it, but she's made me the most sought-after man in town. Oh, well, next week, spinach. Anyway, to get back to business, I didn't know that my old friend, Judge Robert March, was having a cocktail party the afternoon I dropped by his place to say hello. But as I walked into the patio, I was Richard the Glad Rogue. My old friend, the judge, introduced me to an amber-eyed blonde who answered to the name of Pamela Leeds, and I smartly opened the conversation by saying, hello.
Oh, Judge March, do you mean to tell me that this is the famous Richard Rogue, the investigator?
I know it's disappointing, Pamela dear, but nevertheless, that's the Rogue.
Oh, really?
You're not really disappointed, are you, Miss Leeds? You're just amazed that a man who has done so many brilliant things could be so young and handsome.
Of course.
Well, I can see that you don't need me, Richard. I think I'll go and circulate among my other guests. I'm sure that the two of you will never miss me.
See you later, Judge. Thanks.
You can believe almost anything he says, Pamela, unless it's about himself or you.
Thanks for the tip, Judge.
Would you like to take a walk around the garden? There's a bench under a weeping willow tree over there by the wall that always makes me feel very poetic.
Oh, I hate to miss that, really, but I was just leaving. I have to leave, really.
Oh, you do? Oh. Well, how are you going to leave? You have a car here?
No, the judge was going to send me home in his car.
Well, that's silly. Oh, yes, especially when I'm going out that way, right past your house, as a matter of fact. I'll drive you home.
Were you really going out my way?
Of course.
Well, then, I'll go with you.
Oh, that's swell. Oh, incidentally, where do you live? Well, Pamela, this has been a kind of a short date. I hope I get a rain check on that bench under the tree. I have a lot of fascinating statements I'd like to make to you.
Oh, we'll see each other again, won't we, Richard?
Or how about tomorrow night? It's Sunday, you know. Great nights, Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
The moon will be full. There's dining and dancing at the Macombo and...
Pamela.
Dr. Stevens, what's the matter? Is Father...
Pamela, we've been trying to reach you.
Yes?
You better come with me, Pamela. Your father is dead.
Well, that's how it all began. We'll continue in just a moment. But now, here's Jim Doyle.
I'd like to make a suggestion to the ladies. I'll bet you've often felt like singing the blues after you've shampooed your hair. The shampoo blues is a well-known theme. I've just washed my hair and can't do a thing with it. Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo is just the thing to dispel those blues. For when you use Fitch's saponified shampoo, your hair is so lustrous and easy to manage, you'll be singing praises rather than the blues. It's made from pure vegetable and mild coconut oils, so it never leaves your hair dry and difficult to manage. It makes oceans of lather, too, that cleanses completely. Fitch's saponified shampoo also contains a special patented rinsing agent. Even when you rinse with hard water, this rinsing agent ensures that no soapy film is left on your hair. It leaves your hair shimmering with natural highlights. You can use Fitch's saponified coconut oil shampoo as often as you like, with absolutely no fear of the shampoo blues. Ask for it at your drug or toilet goods counter. Look for the bottle with the bright yellow label. And now we return to Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
I'm fairly familiar with death in most of its forms. And maybe familiarity with a man with a scythe breeds contempt. But I felt awfully sorry for Pamela Leeds when her father, Anson Leeds, died. I was more than ordinarily interested when my friend Judge Robert March called me the evening after Leeds' death and asked me to come to his office.
Richard, I am the executor of Anson Leeds' estate, and I think there's something strange about his will.
Yeah?
This is, of course, confidential. But he left the great bulk of his estate to a nephew, his sister's child, Peter Moore, with only a $50,000 legacy for Pamela, and the rest of the estate going to the servants and various charities.
Oh, only $50,000 to Pamela, huh? You think that's a little strange?
I've been Anson Leeds' attorney, and I think his closest friend for 30 years. Rogue, I know how fond he was of Pamela, but... Pamela was not his daughter, you know. She was adopted by Anson just before his wife died 20 years ago.
Oh, legal adoption, huh?
Yes, and I'm in a position to know that Anson couldn't have loved Pamela any more if she had been his own daughter. As a matter of fact, I drew up a will for him about 6 years ago, in which he left almost all of his money to Pamela, with other small legacies to relatives and servants and charities.
Was the old gent a little flighty in his last years?
No, sound as a dollar. Extremely bright right up to the last. And Rogue, there was no change in the way he felt about Pamela. I know that. But I cannot understand this new will.
When was it made? What's the date on it?
Just a year ago this month. Here it is.
Oh, I see. Typed. Is this signature genuine?
Oh, of course. There can be no doubt of that. I know that fancy Spencerian signature as well as I know my own. I realize, Rogue, that I'm giving you a problem here that is based on nothing more than a personal hunch. But I would never be at ease about administering the estate if I didn't have the will thoroughly checked.
Well, let's see. This will mentions only Peter Moore. That's the nephew. Pamela Leeds. Kate Schumann, 5,000.
Oh, Anson's nurse. Been with him for, 6 or 7 years. A fine woman.
And Fred Kraft?
Anson's gardener. Been with him, 15 years, I guess. They, the nurse and the gardener, witnessed the will, as you'll notice. I want to retain you to investigate that will for me, Rogue.
Oh. Well, Judge, ordinarily I hold my clients up for a fee. But for you, Judge, I guess I could toss you a couple of parking tickets.
Richard, this is very important to me. Will you handle it for me?
Well, of course, Judge. Now, first, looks like my first move is to go out to the Leeds estate and talk with the witnesses. See under what circumstances this document was written and signed. I'll see you later, Judge. How do you do? I wonder if I could see Kate Schumann.
I'm Kate Schumann.
Oh, I'm Richard Rogue.
The investigator?
Yes.
What do you want to see me about?
Well, Miss Schumann, could we go someplace where we could talk privately?
Of course. My quarters are upstairs.
Richard Rogue,
Oh, hello, Pamela.
what in the world are you doing here?
Well, I just came by to talk with Miss Schumann.
Well, I didn't know you knew her.
He doesn't.
No, we just met. I'll see you later, Pam.
All right. Stop by the library on your way out, will you?
Oh, sure.
Right in here, Mr. Rogue.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Rogue.
I came to talk with you about the will which you witnessed for Anson Leeds about a year ago. Oh, cigarette?
No, thank you. I don't smoke, but I don't mind if you do.
Thank you. Tell me, Miss Schumann, who typed the will?
I'll tell you the whole story. Mr. Leeds called me in one morning and asked me to do some typing for him. I often type letters and business things for him.
Yes?
I got my portable typewriter, and before he started dictating, he made me promise that I'd never mention the fact that he'd made a new will until after he'd passed on. Then he dictated the will to me.
I see. Did he seem in good mental health at the time?
He was perfectly normal. I was a little surprised at his terms. I mean, the way he left the money. And he could tell that I was. He just told me that he had good and sufficient reasons for doing it the way he did, and asked me to witness his signature.
Uh-huh.
Then he asked me to get the gardener, Fred Kraft, to come in and witness it. I did.
He signed the will in the presence of both you and Fred Kraft?
Yes.
Do you know Peter Moore?
I've seen him here a few times on visits. I don't know him.
Will he be here for the funeral?
Yes, he's on his way here now.
On his way here? He lives in another town?
He lives in Garden City, Iowa, with his mother. She was Mr. Leeds' older sister.
Oh. Well, thank you, Miss Schumann.
Who asked you to investigate the will, Mr. Rogue?
I can't tell you that, except that it was an interested party.
Well, everything happened just the way I said it did. I'm sorry to see Miss Pamela left with so little money. I'm very fond of her.
Well, it certainly looks like everything was according to Hoyle. Thanks for talking so frankly with me, Miss Schumann. You've been a great help. I'll just check with Fred Kraft, and you can forget the whole thing.
I didn't expect to see you out here today, Mr. Rogue.
Well, I didn't expect to be here, Pamela. Judge March asked me to drop by and do him a little favor, that's all.
Oh, excuse me. It must be Peter.
Certainly.
Hello, Peter.
Hello, Pamela. I guess there isn't much I can say, is there, Pamela?
I know, Peter. Where's your mother? Didn't she come with you?
No, you know Mother. She was very upset. She just couldn't make it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, this is my cousin, Peter Moore, Mr. Rogue.
Hello.
How do you do?
I think I'd better run along, Pamela. I want to talk to your gardener. Name's Kraft, isn't it?
Fred Kraft. He'll be in his cottage. It's out and back. It's a little white cottage. He's probably asleep by now.
Mr. Kraft? Mr. Kraft? Mr. Kraft? Oh, good Lord.
Homicide. Lieutenant Urban speaking.
Hello, Urban. Richard Rogue.
No kidding. Cook up some more business for me, Rogie?
Well, you know me, Urban. The Anson Leeds estate this time. The Leeds gardener was just chopped to death with a hand axe while he was asleep. Better get your boys and get out here.
Hello?
Judge March, Richard Rogue.
Yes?
Judge, get that will to a handwriting expert. I think it's a phony.
Oh, well, have you any evidence that...
Now, Judge, this isn't the court. This time I've got a hunch, that's all. One of the witnesses, the gardener, has just been chopped to death. Now get an expert on that will and tell him we'll call him for a report on the signature tonight. And you'd better come out here.
One of the things I like about you, Rogie, the corpses you find are always so dead.
Oh, I see what you mean, Urban. Say, from the looks of this room, the late Fred Kraft put up quite a row, didn't he, huh?
Uh-huh. But not enough of a row to get out of that couch he was lying on when he got that first blow with the axe.
Let's shake the joint down, shall we?
Uh-huh. Why was he killed?
Well, all I have is a theory. I don't want anybody in the house to know that. He was one of the witnesses on a will made by Anson Leeds. The will is in question.
I get it. You think he might have been put out of the way to keep him from testifying as to the validity of the will, eh?
That's my theory. Oh. And there's something that might back it up a little.
What?
Look. There on the floor.
Yeah?
Stub of a plane ticket. From Garden City, Iowa.
You sound like Garden City means something to you. Come on, no tricks, Rogie. What's with Garden City?
That's the town where Leeds was born and raised. That's the town Peter Moore just arrived from.
Oh, I got here as soon as I could, Rogue. Oh, good heavens.
Hello, Judge. Kind of a mess, isn't it?
Oh, Judge, are you having that will checked?
Yes, I have Carl Friend, the handwriting expert, working on it.
What did you know about Fred Kraft, Judge?
Oh, he was an old family retainer in the best sense of the word, Lieutenant. He and Anson Leeds were more friends than they were employer and employee.
How come Anson only left him $5,000 then?
I don't know. Fred was a thrifty man. He had quite a nest egg saved from his salary and from investments he had made on tips from Anson. His estate will be worth, I should say conservatively, $60,000.
Oh. Who gets it now that he's dead?
Well, Pamela Leeds. You know, she's been like a daughter to old Fred. I happen to know that she's the sole beneficiary in his will because I drew it up for the old man.
This case has more angles than a six-pointed star.
Yeah. Here's a cute one I just picked up, Rogue. Look.
A lady's wristwatch. Where'd you find it?
On the floor, right over there. It's got a broken link, like it might have been torn off of somebody's arm.
Well, whose is it?
It's engraved on the back to Pamela from Dad.
Pamela?
Oh, come on. Let's get in the house, Urban. You'll want to question everybody, won't you?
Yeah. I've got the boys holding Miss Leeds, Peter Moore, and the nurse Schumann in the library.
While you're talking to them, the judge and I are going to be busy. Upstairs.
I don't understand, Rogue. Just what is it we're looking for in Kate Schumann's room?
I don't know. But she's mixed up in this thing someplace. Take a look in the bathroom, will you, Judge? If you see anything the least bit out of line, call me.
Okay, Rogue.
Oh, look. Here's pay dirt.
Yes?
Kate Schumann's diploma from nursing school. See where it was issued?
School of Nursing, City Hospital, Garden City, Iowa.
Yeah, that town keeps popping up, doesn't it, huh?
Yes.
Oh, look, I want you to witness this, Judge. Here are 2 cigarette stubs. Lipstick on the tips. Fresh. No, don't touch them. Just leave them right where they are.
All right, but Rogue, you said yourself that the nurse couldn't have killed Kraft. She was in the house at the time that he was murdered.
Yeah, I know. But I've got an idea that's beginning to make sense. You got a pencil?
Yes.
Now, let me use it here. I want to copy this phone number from Kate Schumann's scratch pad. BL6791. Room 323.
You know, Rogue, we have no right...
Now, look, Judge, this is beginning to weigh on your conscience. You better get downstairs with Urban. He's a worrier, too. I've got a lot of work to do and a long-distance phone call to make. You go downstairs and tell Urban I'll be down as soon as I have convicting evidence on a murderer.
All right. I'm going to have to impress on you that I mean business. There's been a murder committed. Now, one of you knows something about it, and
We don't, Lieutenant Urban. I tell you, we were all here in the house when Fred was killed. I wish you'd go away and leave us alone.
What was your wristwatch doing lying in a pool of blood near the body of the murdered man, Miss Leeds? Why was a link torn wide open on the band?
I don't know. It was on my dressing table this morning. I know it was.
Yes? Well, 3 witnesses saw it lying at the scene of the crime.
Look, Lieutenant, why don't you let the poor girl alone? I was with her when Fred Kraft was killed.
So was I. We were all right here in this room.
That's very interesting. All of you established your alibis for a very important time. Were you all working together? Now, one of you start talking. How about you, Peter Moore? How do you account for the fact that the stub of a plane ticket from Garden City, Iowa, was found at the scene of the crime?
Plane ticket? I came out on a train.
Yeah? When were you in Fred Kraft's cottage?
I haven't been out there in 4 years.
You may have to prove that statement more in court.
This is outrageous. You can't keep us here pounding questions at us, making accusations.
There's been a murder committed. It's my business to find out who did it. I'm going to find out. Judge, go get Rogue. Tell him I want him down here right now.
All right, Lieutenant.
Peter, please. Don't let him question me anymore.
Look, Lieutenant, it must be perfectly obvious that no one of us could have had anything to do with the murder. It was probably some transient. I suggest, Lieutenant, that you use some other means of trying...
Yes, what's the matter?
The upstairs looks like a cyclone hit it, and Richard Rogue is gone.
Yes, I was gone. And I'll tell you more about it in just a moment. First, here's Jim Doyle, who wants to tell you some facts about shaving.
Yes, men, it's a fact. Fitch's No Brush shaving cream does give as smooth and comfortable a shave as you could hope for. Plenty of research and testing have gone into the making of this fine cream, and now it combines the qualities you want. Smoothness of texture, a clean, tangy odor, and a skin conditioning ingredient for sensitive skins. Fitch's No Brush softens up the toughest beards, so your razor will glide easily, giving you a close, clean shave without scraping or irritation. It leaves your face feeling smooth and cool, leaves your disposition calm and cool, too, for Fitch's No Brush shaving cream is designed for sensitive skins.
For men who prefer a lather cream, it's Fitch's Brush Cream. Gives lots of creamy lather that stays moist all during the shave, giving a smooth, comfortable shave. Rinses off easily, too.
Both Fitch's Brush and Fitch's No Brush shaving creams come in economical 25 and 50-cent sizes. Ask for either type, but for solid comfort shaves, be sure it's Fitch, spelled F-I-T-C-H. And now we return to Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery.
The more I looked around the upstairs room in the mansion of Anson Leeds, the more I suspected that what started out to be the investigation of validity of a will had turned into the investigation of not one murder, but 2. I made a long-distance call. Then I called a doctor friend of mine who admitted that a clever murderess could disguise the effect of morphine poisoning. Then I checked the telephone number I found on Kate Schumann's scratch pad, found that it was the number of the Hotel Splendide. I went there. In the lobby, I was stopped by my friend Todd Reeves, the bellboy.
Hello, Mr. Rogue. What are you doing?
Oh, take a ride with me in the elevator, will you, Todd? I'm calling on a guest of yours in room 323.
Yeah? What's the matter? They in trouble?
Now, just don't ask any questions. You want to make $20?
Oh, sure. Who do you want killed?
Just take a ride with me and do me a favor. Give me your passkey, Todd.
Oh, that's what the $20 was for. You want me to get fired?
Oh, I'll back you up if you get in trouble.
Yeah, then I'll really get me the boot. You want me to stick around?
No, I don't. I think the less you know about this case, the better off you're going to be.
Who is it?
Shove off, Todd. I'm going in.
Who is it?
Hello. Stay right where you are, please.
What do you want?
I want to talk with you about a murder.
Oh, this is a typical rogue trick. Telling us to wait here and disappearing. If I ever get... I'll get it. Hello?
Hello, Urban?
Hello, Rogue. Where the devil...
Look, Anson Leeds was murdered. Don't say a word to the people you're holding there. One of them is the killer.
Right.
The will is a forgery, and I have the proof. Hold everybody until I can get there for the payoff. Be about 10 minutes.
All right, Urban. I'll take the party from here.
Okay, Rogue. And this had better be good.
It will be. And this concerns all of you. In the first place, I've talked to Carl Friend, the handwriting expert. That will, leaving everything to Peter, is a forgery. There are 5 copies of the will, and the signature on each of the copies is identical. It's impossible for anybody, even a man in the best of health, to write his name exactly the same way 5 times.
That's not true. I tell you.
Shut up. The signatures were made by placing a sheet of carbon paper under one authentic signature of Anson Leeds and tracing it through to the fake wills with a sharp pencil, then inking the signature in over the tracing. Don't bother denying it, Kate. Carl Friend photographed the signature under a powerful light with an enlarging camera. The particles of graphite under the ink sparkle like diamonds. That will was a fake. And Fred Kraft was killed to keep him from telling the fact that he was not present when Anson Leeds signed it.
I didn't kill Fred Kraft.
No, but you killed Anson Leeds with morphine poisoning.
She murdered my dad? He was murdered?
Yes, Pamela. I just came from the mortuary. There are obvious syringe punctures in his arm.
But Dr. Stevens...
Yes, I know, Judge. He signed a death certificate for heart failure. But I found this vial of morphine tablets in your room, Kate, and this bottle of belladonna hidden in your desk. You killed Leeds with morphine, and then dropped belladonna in his eyes to dilate the pupils. Oh, that was very clever. Because the only outward sign of morphine poisoning is the fact that the pupils of the eyes contract to pinpoint size.
I killed him. But I'll never go to jail for it.
Grab her, Judge. Grab her. Get the syringe away from her.
Kate.
I was too late, Rogue.
Yeah, she was too fast for us with that shot of poison.
Kate.
Kate. Too late. She's dead, Rogie.
I don't understand. Why did she do it, Mr. Rogue?
For gain. You were an innocent part of the plot to kill Anson Leeds, Peter.
Peter? Oh, no.
Stop being so mysterious, Rogue. If you know who killed Fred Kraft, say so. Was it Kate?
No, it wasn't. The murderer of Fred Kraft is in jail. I put her there a few minutes ago. She was a good friend of Kate's, who was resentful of you, Pamela, and ambitious for her son to be a wealthy man. Peter, she needs you, kid. Better get down to the jail and see your mother. She loved you so much that 2 people died, so you could inherit $1 million. Well, that was the end of that case. Peter Moore's mother was tremendously jealous when old Anson Leeds adopted a little girl, Pamela, and made her the heir to his fortune. And after her school days friend Kate Schumann was installed as the old man's trusted nurse, they plotted his murder without Peter's knowledge. Mrs. Moore was in Kate's bedroom when I was questioning Kate, and when she learned that the will was being investigated and that I was going to talk with Fred Kraft about it, she killed him. She made a complete confession and was executed for the crime. I felt sorry for Peter. He's a nice kid. Pamela felt sorry for him, too. She felt so sorry for him, she's going to marry him. So he'll get the Leeds fortune anyway. That hardly seems fair. Getting a girl like Pamela and all that money, too. I could have gone for that Pamela. Lovely girl. Oh, lovely girl. But after all, I need another girl like Frankenstein needed another monster. In exactly the same way. You know what I mean? This is Dick Powell again, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed our story tonight. Ray Buffum wrote it. Leith Stevens composed and conducted the music, and Dee Engelbach produced and directed. Now, don't forget, you've all got a date with us next Thursday night. We have a story for you about an alibi that is blown up by gunfire. There are some lovely people in it. We call it the murder habit. So make a date with us, will you? Thanks for listening, and now here's Jim Doyle.
Be with us again at the same time next week Oh, and by the way, be sure to see Dick Powell in his latest RKO picture, Cornered, at your local theater soon. Remember, tune in next Thursday, same time, same station, when you will again hear Dick Powell as Private Investigator Richard Rogue in Rogue's Gallery. Remember, if dandruff is your problem, ask for Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo. It's the only shampoo made whose guarantee to remove dandruff is backed by one of the world's largest insurance firms. No other shampoo can make this statement. Ask for Fitch's Dandruff Remover Shampoo at your drug or toilet goods counter, beauty or barber shop. Fitch is spelled F-I-T-C-H.
Welcome back. Well, this was definitely a little different for Rogie. No trip to Cloud 8. This was more of a straight, soft-boiled type detective story you might see from, like, Hillary Queen or something. One thing I'm wondering why nobody mentioned was that if you are named in a will as a beneficiary, you cannot witness the will. So the will in question, the forged will, regardless of anything else, was invalid. And as a lawyer, the judge should have known that. All right, well, that'll do it for this week's episode of Rogue's Gallery. Well, before we do get started, I do want to encourage you, if you've not already, to pick up a copy of my book, Tales of the Damned Night. It is a wonderful superhero comedy. It's a great story I think you will enjoy. We've gotten lots of great reviews on it. And you can learn more by going to dimnight.com, where you can read excerpts. The ebook version is actually available for only $1.50 for the rest of the month over at smashwords.com. We're going to go ahead and get into today's episode. It's called Portrait by Priscilla.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Standard Oil Company of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Portrait by Priscilla, another adventure of George Valentine.
Hello? Hello? Is anyone here? Is anyone...
Oh! Look out, you clumsy ape. You'll knock over the scrub bucket.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was looking for the proprietor of the art store here.
How should I know? Look around yourself.
But I haven't much time. I'm from
Get
Fairview.
your foot off my mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back room, upstairs, out to lunch, maybe. Look around. Steal a picture. I don't care.
Oh, I do a legitimate business with the shop. Supplies, prints, and reproductions in the $1.95 class. My department store in Fairview sells quite a few of those. Oh, well. I say, is anyone up there? No. Chinese glass chimes. Well, would you look at that? Well, it's not bad. Portrait by Priscilla. Huh? Who's that? personal notice. Danger is my stock in trade. If the job is... Yes. Dear Mr. Valentine.
But couldn't you see who it was? Couldn't you see who hit you?
Well, no, Miss Brooks. It happened so fast. I was struck from behind. I have a terrible lump on my head.
All right, Mr. Simpson. I understand that part of it. Whoever it was probably hiding behind the door.
Yes, that's what I thought.
What kind of a place was this, the Graftus Clay and Art Shop?
Well, they sell mostly artist supplies. They're in the Bohemian section of town. But the owner, Ben Graftus, does a mail-order business, too. That's how I happen to be there.
You mean he sends pictures to this department store of yours in Fairview?
Yes, just prints, reproductions. It's very modest. But I've always wanted to meet Mr. Graftus. His letters have always been so friendly. When I order pictures, I tell him about the fishing up there, and he answers with gossip about his wife, his car, or his opinions of the art world. He's quite an authority. I always wanted to know more about art.
And so you decided to look him up this time when you came to town?
Well, he knew I was coming. He wrote and asked me to. He asked me to meet him for dinner tonight at the Romney restaurant. When I found a moment's spare time, I thought I'd run around to his shop and meet him in advance. That's all I was doing there. But nothing of mine had been stolen. I was carrying a great deal of money, too, $500.
So you come back to your hotel here and you didn't report it to the police. Where do I fit in all this, Mr. Simpson?
Well, I thought... Graftus has never actually seen me. I thought perhaps if you went in my place tonight to meet him...
Are you suspicious of Graftus?
Yes, the first thing I would have done would have been to get in touch with him.
Well, Mr. Valentine, I'd written this man from Fairview that I would enjoy some excitement. I was anxious to meet some of the artists, the unusual types one hears so much about.
I'm beginning to see. You had yourself set up for a fast night in the big city, and now you've got cold feet.
Oh, no. Though I'll grant you I'm not exactly the type for... Well, I don't really know anything about Graftus, and suppose he's in trouble of some kind. Would I be of any help?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh, listen. I haven't told you about the portrait yet.
The what?
I was standing looking at this oil portrait. It was on the easel, not quite finished
No, you
yet.
did tell us about that. Portrait by Priscilla, whoever that might be.
Well, when I came to, the portrait was gone. It had been taken right off the easel.
Well, you finally said something.
Mr. Simpson, portrait of what?
It was an oil. Just the head and shoulders of a man. A gray-haired man, about 50, bushy eyebrows. Oh, and I remember a rather sharply cleft chin, because his mouth was young, with a mole on the lip. Oh, Graftus, that must be him. In his last letter, he said he'd call me up to confirm.
Never mind, I'll find out for you. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Simpson. It's so nice to hear your voice. How are the potatoes and fish and everything up in Fairview?
Who is this?
Am I fresh? I'm calling for Ben Graftus.
Oh,
Speaking
yes.
of the customer and just wanted to make sure that 8 o'clock is all right at the Romney. It's a gloomy little place, but you will be there, won't you? You can find it all right.
Well, look here,
Mr. Simpson, isn't it? My name is Priscilla.
You're...
Just Priscilla. Nothing before, nothing after.
Oh, how do you do? Yes, of course. Tell Mr. Graftus I'll be there at 8. I am Mr. Simpson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine.
I beg your pardon. You're,
Mr. Simpson?
Yes. It's not so easy to find anybody here. It's rather dark.
Sorry, I should have waited at the bar, but
Hello.
Mr. Simpson, this is Miss...
Priscilla, we've met.
Oh, on the telephone.
What's the matter? Haven't you ever shaken hands with a girl who wears black nail polish before? Violent reaction to the name Priscilla, I suppose.
Well, it's very attractive.
Oh, but you're going to be alone, don't worry. 2 men in the town. I only stopped by for a drink.
Priscilla, please.
I told you no, Benny. I have another engagement. I have to run home and dress.
And drink your drink. Stop fiddling with your watch.
Benny!
That's a very unusual watch.
Oh, isn't it, though? New. It even strikes the hour. See? And it's 8 o'clock and much too late. And goodbye, Buster.
Oh, no, please. Gee, I don't get to meet artists every day up in Fairview. I mean, well, I've heard of you. Your portrait...
I'm not a good painter, Mr. Simpson, but yours, sweet...
Oh, no, please sit down. Look, this is my night in the city. But, you know, Ben here is kind of a surprise. I expected an older man. Gray hair, bushy eyebrows, cleft chin, maybe? Or a mole on your lip?
Well, the mystery is solved, Benny. Did you steal my painting, Mr. Simpson?
No. But who was the old guy, the cleft chin?
A very dull painting of a very dull man.
Good night, Priscilla.
What? But Benny...
I said good night. You've got a date, haven't you?
Hey, no, wait a minute.
Oh, please, Mr. Simpson, a lady can take a hint. It's not important anyway. Bye-bye, Fairview. Provincial people up and all.
What's the matter?
Well, it was pretty easy to figure out what had happened upstairs there. Picture missing, blood on the floor, little signs of struggle. There'd been somebody up there besides whoever it was that took that picture. But I had no idea that it had been you, Mr. Simpson.
I hope I didn't mess up your store too much.
I rent the upstairs to Priscilla as a studio.
Oh?
You would have known that if you were really Mr. Simpson. I mentioned it in one of my letters.
Oh, I see. Well, suppose Mr. Simpson doesn't feel well and asks me to come tonight in his place. Would that be anything for you to be so pale about?
I'm not pale. Waiter.
Now, just take it easy. Look, my name's George Valentine. I've looked you up, Mr. Graftus, and you seem to be okay. Come on, now, what's this all about?
Well, I don't quite know. That's the crazy part of it. Maybe it's, like she says, not important. Well, okay, Mr. Valentine, or whoever you are. It's in the budget to entertain a customer from out of town tonight, so let's go. Order a steak. Tell me the story of your life.
You in love with this painter, this Priscilla?
Mr. Valentine, don't try to solve all the riddles. I've got a wife. She's not very well. I work hard for her.
Okay, I'll try again.
I said don't
Aren't you
try
just as curious as I am what it was all about? Isn't that what you yourself are doing here with Priscilla, trying to find out who might have stolen the picture and why? That is, unless you did.
No, I didn't. I don't know, Mr. Valentine. Priscilla's strange. All that gaudy manner and, well, not really a very good painter. Yes, I suppose I am a little curious.
Okay, then what do you say we skip the steak and try to find some answers?
Mr. Stokowski, we're trying to identify a man in a picture.
We haven't had much luck the past hour or two.
Any man, any picture. To settle a bet, huh? You're at the right place, gentlemen.
Yeah, I understand you're one of the biggest art gallery owners in town.
The biggest, 300 pounds. Now, what is the period of the painting?
It's a portrait, Mr. Stokowski. A man in a portrait.
Uh-huh.
A portrait by Priscilla.
Well, I told Mr. Valentine here that you handled her other pictures for sale. That is, some of them. Oh, you were in her studio just a couple of days ago. I thought perhaps you'd noticed...
What does the man look like, the subject of this portrait?
Well, he has gray hair, about 50, bushy eyebrows, cleft chin, a rather young or weak mouth, with a mole on the lip.
I am just on the telephone to a man who has been asking about the same person.
Yeah?
The subject of this particular portrait by Priscilla is Richard Ratterman. Huh? Oh. I'm just informed that this Mr. Ratterman has blown his brains out.
Yeah, that's right. He's a big-shot broker, and now he's stone cold dead on the market.
Lieutenant Devlin, you sure it's suicide?
Of course I'm sure. Every test proves it.
What about the picture, the portrait?
It's lying on the desk in his study. He's lying on top of that.
So maybe he's the one who slugged Simpson.
So maybe a lot of things. So maybe there's a lady I'd like to talk to named Priscilla.
All right, Devlin. I'll meet you at her place. Only I told you she had a date.
Date with whom? What kind of a social secretary are you?
Graftus, you sure you don't know who her date was with?
I'm sorry, Mr. Valentine. But she has an apartment uptown.
Valentine, you still there?
We could wait for
Yeah,
her.
okay. We can look around, Devlin. Maybe she keeps a diary. I'll see you there.
Well, Valentine, the lady of mystery, huh?
Yeah. She'll be keeping a mystery now, won't she, Devlin?
Yep.
She's dead. She's been strangled.
We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. You've seen even older cars on the highway that have lots of pep in traffic, that take the hills as if they had lots of reserve power. Well, that's the kind of performance that gives you that new car feeling. But you'll never experience this feeling if engine-sticking gum is robbing your car of its power. Gum, every motorist should know, is formed by the impurities existing in most raw gasolines. And the only way to get it out is to refine it out. Chevron Supreme gasoline is the gasoline that is super refined to eliminate power-robbing gum. So to get and keep that new car feeling, try this premium quality gasoline. You'll like your car's new, improved response and the full mileage you get in the kind of driving you do. Ask for super refined Chevron Supreme at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Portrait by Priscilla. The man whose portrait it was is now dead. A suicide. Well, of course, if your name is George Valentine, you'd like to have another talk with the artist, Priscilla. Only when you go to her apartment, you find a slight hitch in your plan. Priscilla is dead, too. She's been strangled.
Yeah, that's what the doc says. Hurry it up with the pictures, will you there, boys?
How long ago did he say, Lieutenant?
Oh, hour, two. Hard to tell.
Well, it must have been just after she left us in the restaurant. Because she said she was going to change her clothes, and she didn't. Same gold dress.
Mm-hmm. Black fingernail polish.
And the same flashy earrings. She jingled when she walked. Yeah, lots of color. But both Stokowski and Graftus said she wasn't a very good painter. The only one who seemed to think differently was Mr. Simpson here.
What? Well, I'm really no judge. I come from a small town.
I imagine there's some very good critics up there.
But I'm certainly not one of them.
Valentine, what you're talking about is this apartment itself, Jack.
Yeah, pretty fancy.
Oh, it is, indeed.
Pretty fancy apartment for an unsuccessful artist.
Priscilla must have had a private income.
That mysterious date of hers tonight. That's what I'm going to find out.
Wait a minute, Devlin.
Yeah?
Her watch.
I noticed it too, George. It stopped running, hasn't it? Like other things, it's so unusual.
Looks valuable, too, Brooksy. Hey, you mind if I take it, Devlin?
Hey, what is this? Why? Why do you want to take it?
To get the same answers you're after. Only while you're going your way, me, I'll take a shortcut.
Monsieur Valentine, you are in general not stupid, but there is nothing wrong with your watch that a little winding will not fix. For this, you should get me from bed, huh? Now, like so. It will chime for you.
Hey, will you please slow down? I want to know the price of the watch.
This gaudy, old-fashioned...
The way it's fixed, it's really quite fashionable.
For a bauble to catch the eye and never tell the right time.
Well, that's just it. It is a bauble. But it has stones in it. And a woman wouldn't buy that for herself, would she?
But, George, she might. I mean, for a woman with money.
I say $2,000. I say maybe $2,500.
I take it back. She wouldn't.
Uh-huh. A gift from an admirer. Well, Angel, I remember Priscilla mentioned the watch was new.
Well, maybe from the current admirer. Maybe the man she had the date with.
Who'd sell a thing like this, friend?
Only an idiot who would sell gold paddles for canoes. An ignoramus who has never seen the Alps.
Look, Buster, I know it offends your good Swiss taste, but will you please...
It is a custom job, monsieur. EW. That is Excelsior Watches, Chicago. You would have to see them, the makers. And may I say, monsieur, have you ever noticed how all the wrong people get strangled, yourself not accepted? Good night.
All right, Valentine. You got your wire off to Chicago, now you're happy, are you? I still say that in a murder case you should never overlook the obvious.
Like what, Devlin?
I rechecked on the times of death and I found definite...
Oh, you mean you finally figured out that maybe Mr. Ratterman killed her and then went home and shot himself?
Miss Brooks, I got Mrs. Ratterman on the griddle. She admitted she told her husband she was going to leave him because of this Priscilla who'd been painting his portrait. He'd been spending plenty of money on the girl. Well, it was too much for the guy, and later on he pulled out his gun and that's that.
Wait a minute. If Ratterman was Priscilla's one and only, would you have made the crack to me that it was a very dull picture of a very dull man? So tell us what else you've been doing, Devlin.
Now listen to me both and wait a minute. Yeah, Lieutenant Devlin.
Lieutenant, this is Ben Graftus.
Yeah, Graftus?
Here, give me that. What is it, Graftus?
Valentine, I came back to the shop. It's where my wife picks me up in the car to drive home, only
Well, go on. What happened?
there's a light still on upstairs in Priscilla's studio. I didn't go in because I think there's someone up there.
There he goes. Grab it.
Slow down, my friend.
You don't have to break my arm. I'm not doing anything.
Oh, no, you're not doing anything. Not much.
Mr. Stokowski.
Yeah, how do you like this? One of the biggest art dealers in town, and we catch him burning up pictures.
And I'm not saying anything either. I know my rights.
Oh, that's a good one.
But some of them are his pictures, Mr. Valentine.
You be quiet, Ben.
I mean, he paid her for them several times. I've seen him come up here giving her checks.
Shut up!
Buster, it's your turn to shut up. Now, look, you're a big shot. You buy nothing but the best. And Priscilla wasn't a very good painter. Now, here, let's take a look at this stuff, whatever's left of it.
Here's one, George, upside down.
Yeah, let me see that.
Mm-hmm. Piece of a landscape. Yeah, here's another portrait.
Hey, wait a minute. I've met this guy, this one. Not very good of him, but he's a paving contractor here in town. Pretty well fixed. And this other one over here. I've seen his picture in the newspaper. Big manufacturer.
Yeah, Devlin, for a second-rate artist, Priscilla seemed to draw a first-class clientele. Only the noble Stokowski here probably thought the boys would appreciate no publicity.
Mr. Valentine,
you came down here the minute you heard about her death to keep things quiet. Like the prices you paid for her landscapes that were lousy. Like who these other suckers were in a little black book.
Now, wait a
When you
minute,
bought
brother.
pictures from Priscilla, Buster, it was only to hide the fact you were paying blackmail. That's the explanation of where she got her money, Devlin. Blackmail.
Sure. She was just a good enough painter to get the big boys close enough to work on. They get mixed up with her and set for the frame. Portrait by Priscilla.
I didn't say anything. I remind you, I have not admitted
wait a minute. No. If that's the case, then any of these guys might have had just as much motive as Ratterman.
Oh, excuse me, Lieutenant.
Go away.
I'm sorry, sir, but the car radio says there's a telegram from Mr. Valentine at the office. It's from Chicago. You can use the phone down the street.
Well, guess we better play it my way after all, huh, Devlin? If we keep our fingers crossed, maybe we can chop the field down to size again. Yeah? Yeah, I got it all. Okay, thanks, Sergeant.
What was it, Mr. Valentine?
Oh, not exactly what I expected, Graftus.
What do you mean?
Well, maybe it wasn't that. Only, we'll have to work fast. Now, look, you said your wife was waiting for you around here someplace.
Well, yes. Right out here by the car. Darling, this is George Valentine.
Oh, how do you do?
Hello.
This is simply awful about poor Priscilla.
Look, please excuse me, but we haven't much time, and I think it'd be safer if your wife came back upstairs to Priscilla's studio with us.
Well, sure. Whatever you say. Hey, where's everybody gone?
Outside. That's part of it. Here, Mrs. Grafton, sit down, won't you?
What? Oh, thank you. But I don't understand.
Well, it's really pretty simple. I need your help, both of you. You see, the doctor says that Priscilla couldn't have been strangled by a woman.
What?
And, of course, Ben here was right with me all evening. So, you're the only ones I can turn to. Now, listen. That phone call I made, it was about a telegram to Chicago, an outfit that makes custom watches. Only the trouble was they said the watches were sent to Mr. Zimmy Zimmerman, care of General Delivery, this city.
Oh, wait a minute. You mean you were thinking about that watch of Priscilla's, the funny one that she had on?
Yeah. I was hoping they could tell me who bought it. Only Zimmy Zimmerman. Now, that's a phony, pretty obviously.
Oh, I see.
Benny, what's the matter?
Well, nothing, darling. I just...
Mr. Graftus, you'd help clear the air a lot if you'd admit that you gave Priscilla that watch.
What?
Mr. Valentine, I think you've got a lot of nerve to
But will you?
insinuate...
There isn't time. Now, listen. Yeah, they're right out there now.
Mr. Valentine, really?
You want to know what Devlin and the others are doing out there? They're searching your car, Graftus.
Searching my car?
Yeah, something might catch their eye. It's funny how things catch your eye. Especially in a dim place like the Romney.
You said Lieutenant Devlin is outside looking
They
into
won't
my...
find any of the flashy things, will they? Gold dress, big earrings, the jingle. Might find some polish remover, though, for the black nail polish.
Valentine!
Oh, no, you don't, Buster. You're not big enough. That telegram said watches, plural. But I'd already begun to guess before then.
No.
Guess
No, it
that
wasn't.
Priscilla wasn't really so exceptionally good-looking or anything else if you took your eyes away from all the trappings, the exotic touches, the eye catches. But who could do that?
Please. No, now listen
When
to
I
me.
saw the real Priscilla, especially after the way she was killed, how could I tell the difference? Hey, what's the matter with your purse, sister? Give me that.
Let go!
Darling.
The little wife got rid of the other stuff for the masquerade, but couldn't resist hanging on to the expensive watch, could she? Yeah, sure. Here it is. The other watch, Graftus. Exactly like the one you gave Priscilla.
I gave her?
The straw that was to break the camel's back when it came to my identifying her body. Only it's the straw that broke your back instead, Buster. Broke your perfect alibi.
Benny, stop him. You've got to stop him.
Hold it.
Because you killed Priscilla, didn't you, Benny? Killed her and right afterwards brought your wife around to meet me and start setting up your perfect alibi at the Romney.
What are you talking about, Valentine?
Look what I'm doing. I'm nervously fiddling with a watch. It's exactly what you did in the restaurant, Mrs. Graftus. To call attention to it so I'd remember. Only when you fiddle with a watch, you wind it, don't you? Sure, you did, like this, remember. But only a few minutes later, Priscilla's watch had run down. It stopped. So, I suspected two watches.
You're pretty smart, Mr. Valentine.
Don't. No, Benny, don't!
Our car doesn't have anything in it. But this is a gun you're looking at, sucker.
Who's the sucker? Thanks, Devlin.
You know, the thing that still keeps bothering me is this poor Ratterman fellow.
Oh, that was just coincidence, Mr. Simpson. Just messing around, feeling sorry for himself and the picture being stolen.
But it might have been blamed entirely on him.
I know. That would have been lucky for the Graftuses.
There were a lot of men mixed up with the real Priscilla, Mr. Simpson. Any one of them could have been suspected.
But wasn't Ben Graftus mixed up with her himself?
No, he just wanted to move in on her blackmail. Up in the hospital, he admitted he'd already swiped a little black book, the notes she had on the boys. So, since his wife was the same general type as Priscilla, they dreamed up what they thought was a perfect way of getting rid of her and taking over.
And inviting me, a man who'd never met them, inviting me to dinner here was part of their plan.
Mm-hmm. You would have been the alibi from Fairview.
Yes, here at the Romney. My, it's a dark, mysterious place, isn't it?
Oh, well, there's nothing wrong with it. I like it where it's dark. People can't see you when you... Oh, Angel.
Yes, darling?
When you take your shoes off. Oh, that feels so good.
Oh, George.
You probably don't know one single motorist who would deliberately drive with the choke out all day for the simple reason that it would be like throwing gasoline away. But if you listen to the car savers at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations, they'll tell you this. All too many motorists let the air cleaner under the hood get so dirt-clogged that it can waste just as much gas as a pulled-out choke. Even worse, a dirty air cleaner can mean that some road grit and dust is mixing with the gasoline. And that, of course, is a serious threat to the precision-fitted parts in your car's engine. So, to avoid waste of gasoline and possible damage to engine parts, why not have the air cleaner looked at tomorrow? If it calls for a cleaning, that can be done fast and for little cost. It's another car saver service offered to you by independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations, where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard Oil Company of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Robert Bailey is starred as George, with Virginia Gregg as Brooksy. Let George Do It is written by David Victor and Jackson Gillis and directed by Don Clark. Pat McGeehan was heard as Lieutenant Devlin, Bob Griffin as Simpson, Lorene Tuttle as Priscilla, Donald Buca as Graftus, Harold Deerenforth as Stokowski, and Rolf Sedan as the expert. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Well, that winding watch thing may have been lost on some folks with all the digital watches out there. But overall, it was a pretty good clue to wrap up the case. Now we turn to listener comments and feedback, and we begin with one from our friend Brian, who writes, who's written to us before, says, "Here's my vote for this month. By the way, in case no one else has commented yet, the plot of your recent video extra, Mr. Wong in Chinatown, is virtually identical to the plot of the Charlie Chan movie, The Chinese Ring. The similarities are too great to be a coincidence. Just thought you would enjoy the trivia." Thanks so much for bringing that up. I had actually read about it in some of the reviews on IMDb, and the plots are essentially identical. The big tie-in and the reason for the identical plots was that the Chinese Ring was actually the first of the Monogram Pictures version of Charlie Chan. It was when the series had really mostly run its course. The second Charlie Chan, Sidney Toler, died in 1947. And the series went to Monogram, which was really kind of a poverty row type operation. And so they recycled an old script, because as you'll recall, Monogram also did Mr. Wong in Chinatown. So good catch on that. Then we have a nice review over on iTunes. If you want a great old time radio show with a host dedicated to the product, look no further than this podcast. Thank you. And finally, comment on Podcast Alley, the best podcast ever. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate all your comments, feedback, and support. We will be back tomorrow with Sherlock Holmes. Well, before we get started, I want to let you know about Netflix. I've mentioned the great variety of programming that Netflix offers. And really, there's a lot of stuff there for the whole family. Particularly as the Instant Watch library continues to grow. Many older kids shows and cartoons have been added, including recently several of the 1990s Marvel Comics superhero shows, which were of pretty good high quality. Well, regardless of what you want to watch, Netflix provides you a world of options. When I first started with Netflix, I figured I'd keep the subscription until I ran out of stuff. That's a tough task. There are so many great choices there. Netflix.greatdetectives.net, or if you're in Canada, netflixca.greatdetectives.net. Now it's time for The Adventure of the Submerged Baronet.
Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo present the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes, starring Nigel Bruce as Dr. Watson and Tom Conway as Sherlock Holmes. Now it's time for our weekly visit to Sherlock Holmes' famous colleague, our good friend, Dr. Watson. Good evening, Dr. Watson.
Good evening, Mr. Barrow. Sit down and make yourself comfortable. I'm glad to see you.
It's always good to see you, Dr. Watson. And judging from the confusion of papers on your desk and the open dispatch box, I deduce that you have a story for us.
Absolutely correct, Mr. Bell. I can see that your powers of observation are improving through association with me.
I've been looking forward eagerly to this story, the Adventure of the Submerged Nobleman, I believe you called it. Extremely odd title.
But a most accurate one, my dear chap, as you will see. But first, I know that you're anxious for a word with our listeners.
Yes, Dr. Watson, I am. I'd like to tell our listeners about a modern trend in hair grooming that's in such great demand today among men who value their appearance. It's called Kreml Hair Tonic. Kreml keeps hair handsomely groomed from morning until night, just the way you combed it in the morning. This is because Kreml contains a special combination of hair grooming ingredients which is found in no other hair tonic. This wonderful, natural-looking hairdressing has just enough light oil to keep hair perfectly groomed with an attractive, healthy-looking luster. Yet Kreml never leaves the hair looking or feeling greasy or sticky. Kreml always looks and feels so clean on both hair and scalp. A nationwide favorite among America's top-flight executives and most successful men. Be sure to try it. Kreml, Kreml Hair Tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, you have my complete attention for the adventure of the Submerged Nobleman. The floor is yours.
Well, that strange affair took place many years ago. Holmes and I had been spending several days at the seaside resort of Brighton late in July, but not for pleasure, as you might think. We had been concerning ourselves with a most peculiar crime, and only that morning had successfully concluded the affair of the politician, the lighthouse, and the trained cormorant. With a few hours to waste before returning to Baker Street, I persuaded Holmes to join me, much against his will, for a stroll along the front by the sea. You must admit, Holmes, that the first sea breezes are most delightful after the way that we've been cooped up these last few days.
I'd find them more so, Watson, if they were not quite so heavily laden with the odors of cheap peppermint and the sound of even cheaper music.
Oh, come, my dear fellow. England's playground, you know?
That's all very well, Watson, but I do wish the members of the younger generation wouldn't select my feet to play on.
Look over there, Holmes. Down on that pier. Sailing boats for hire. Oh, we've several hours. I'll wager that I haven't forgotten my boyhood skill with a small boat. What about it?
Well, at least the sea has the advantage of being comparatively uncrowded. Lead on, Watson. I must congratulate you, Watson, on your skillful handling of our craft. You reveal a talent I didn't know you possessed.
I haven't done it for years. I don't seem to have lost the knack, though, do I?
How far are we from shore?
About 2 miles, I should say. Wind's rising, too. I think we'd better put about. But now, watch your head, Holmes.
I say, Watson, that boat over there, a few hundred yards off, isn't it behaving rather oddly?
Certainly is. Probably some weekend trippers who never sailed a boat before. The silly fools don't look out, they'll...
They're signaling us. See that woman waving? She looks frantic. She's pointing astern.
Hold hard, Holmes. We run up to them on this tack, but I'm afraid it'll be wet going.
There are 2 women, Watson. One of them standing up.
Silly fool, she's liable to have the boat over if she isn't careful. She's shouting something. Can you make it out?
I caught the word drowning. Look there, Watson, to the left. Something or someone in the water.
I see him. I'll come up into the wind as we reach him. Then get ready, Holmes.
A little more this way. There. I've got him. Give me a hand here, Watson.
Right, you are. Drag him in. Oh, careful. Sure, you can.
You're right.
Well, we better take him in tow, Holmes.
I'm afraid there's nothing we can do for this poor fellow, Watson. There's not even the faintest sign of a pulse.
Stand still. We'll be with you in a minute. Holmes, we'd better take the two ladies aboard with us. Catch hold as we come alongside.
My husband. Is he all
Here,
right?
give me your hand. That's right. I'm afraid it's hopeless, madam. By the time we reached your husband, it was all over.
There, my dear, you must control yourself. It's the Lord's will.
I've got their boat secured, Holmes. I'll head straight to shore.
God, if only he hadn't insisted on going.
You've nothing to reproach yourself with, my dear. May I suggest, gentlemen, that you steer for that strip of sandy beach beyond the headland there, where you see the large white house just above. That's Lord Hollis's house.
All right, you are. We'll be there in a few minutes with this following wind.
Thank you. The gentleman whom you attempted to rescue was Lord Hollis. This is his wife, Lady Diana, and I'm her companion, Miss Cartwright.
I must thank you for coming to our rescue.
Not at all. I'm only sorry we were not in time to save Lord Hollis's life. This is Dr. Watson, and my name is Sherlock Holmes.
She's fainted, poor child. But after what's happened, no wonder.
She'll be all right now, Miss Cartwright. I stayed with the poor girl until the sleeping draught took effect.
Thank you so much, Dr. Watson. May I offer you some tea? I feel there is nothing so invigorating as a good cup of tea.
No, thank you.
While you were upstairs, Watson, I sent a servant to fetch Dr. Miller, Lord Hollis's physician. Fortunately, he's also the coroner for this district.
I'm sorry that you gentlemen are leaving for London this afternoon. I know that Lady Diana would want to extend her deepest thanks to you as soon as she's recovered from this awful shock.
Miss Cartwright has been giving me the details which led up to the tragedy, Watson. She's fully familiar with all the circumstances, since she was Lady Diana's governess as a little girl and has remained with her as a companion ever since her marriage to the late Lord Hollis.
As I have often heard of Mr. Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson, perhaps I have confided in him more freely than I should have. But I know that what I tell you both will go no further.
Of course.
Lord Hollis, I regret to say, drank to excess. He was, as you no doubt noticed, a very fleshy and corpulent man, and Dr. Miller had often warned him against his indulgence in food and spirits. This morning he drank almost a full bottle of brandy, after which he insisted on going sailing. Both Lady Diana and I did our utmost to dissuade him, but when his mind was made up, it was impossible to argue with him. He was utterly incapable of handling a boat in his condition. So Lady Diana managed to prevail upon him to let us accompany him. The alcohol made him foolhardy and reckless. She had asked him to turn back several times before we got into such rough water. But the more she pleaded, the more stubborn he became. Just before we sighted you, he stood up to make some adjustment in the sail. The boat pitched, and he fell overboard. You know what happened next.
Indeed, a tragedy, Miss Cartwright. Well, Holmes, there's nothing more we can do here, and our boat's still down on the beach below. We'd better be getting back to it and to Brighton if we're to catch the afternoon train to London.
Yes, we should be getting along. Goodbye, Miss Cartwright.
I'll walk down the path with you to your boat.
Oh, please don't trouble yourself. We'll have no difficulty in finding our way.
Goodbye, then, and thank you for all you did.
Goodbye, Miss Cartwright.
Goodbye.
Terrible thing, Holmes. A young woman like that, whose whole life blighted by such a tragedy.
No doubt. Odd that she should have fainted just when she did.
Odd? It seems to me most natural that a woman should faint upon discovering that the husband she loves has been drowned.
Now, allow me to correct you, Watson. Lady Diana did not faint at the news that her husband was dead. She fainted when she heard my name.
Oh, really, Holmes, egotism's all very well, but not when it leads you to suspect everyone of being a criminal.
Well, perhaps your strictures are justified, Watson. Well, here we are at the beach, which may offer proof or disproof of my suspicions.
Oh, in what way?
You will notice that when the four of us came up, with you and I carrying the body, I chose a route across the sand which would leave undisturbed the footprints which Lord and Lady Hollis and Miss Cartwright had made when embarking this morning. Be careful not to tread here, Watson, but examine these prints in the wet sand with close attention.
Don't see anything out of the ordinary. There are 3 sets of them.
Precisely. The small ones are Lady Diana's, and those larger prints of a woman's feet are Miss Cartwright.
Oh, how do you know which is which?
Because I took the trouble to look at the shoes both of the ladies were wearing.
And those large imprints from a rubber sole were undoubtedly made by Lord Hollis. I noticed that they waver a trifle, which bears out the report of his condition.
Capital, Watson. Your observation is indeed to be commended.
Oh, thank you very much.
But the most important point about these footprints seems to have entirely escaped your eye.
Oh, here we go again. I don't understand.
Well, you can think it over while we're on our way.
Back to Brighton, you mean?
Yes, to Brighton. En route to call on Colonel Sheridan.
Colonel Sheridan? Why, he's the chief constable of the county, isn't he?
Precisely, Watson. Come on, let's be going.
I must admit, Mr. Holmes, that I'm deeply shocked by the suggestion you just made.
I can easily understand that, Colonel Sheridan. Nevertheless, I feel it my duty to lay the evidence before you.
Flimsy evidence, you must admit, Mr. Holmes.
Flimsy, perhaps. But it offers food for thought. Lord Hollis' footprints in the sand were not nearly as deep as those left by his wife and Miss Cartwright. This despite the fact that he was an unusually heavy man.
You're right, Holmes. I noticed that.
I'm sure you did, Watson.
There's no need to be sarcastic.
And your conclusion from those footprints, Mr. Holmes?
The extreme depth of Lady Diana's and Miss Cartwright's prints admits of only one conclusion, Colonel.
What? You mean their feet sank into the sand because they were carrying something heavy?
Not something, Colonel. Someone.
Good heavens, Holmes. Lord Hollis's body?
Quite.
But dash it all, man, we saw the man drown.
I fear I must correct you, Watson. We saw the man's body floating in the water. We did not see him drown.
I fear we would need far more convincing evidence than those footprints, which the tide has probably washed away by now, even to consider the necessity for action by the police, Mr. Holmes.
I understand your position, Colonel. May I request, however, that Dr. Miller, the coroner, conduct a most thorough post-mortem?
Of course.
With special attention to any possible bruises on the body. Any evidence indicating that Lord Hollis might have been struck a blow that rendered him unconscious before he was pushed overboard.
I shall instruct Dr. Miller accordingly, Mr. Holmes, but I still can't believe there's anything wrong. I've known Edward Hollis since he was a boy. He was a fine chap, generous, excellent right at a house, although a bit over fond of the bottle.
Yes, Miss Cartwright told us.
Oh, Miss Cartwright. Ooh, that woman gives me the cold shivers. She's got an eye like a basilisk.
What about Lady Diana, Colonel?
Well, I can't say that I know much about her. We called when they were first married, but my wife and her friends didn't seem to feel that she was quite... you understand?
Pretty little thing, I thought.
Oh, very, very. Don't know where she came from before she married Hollis. I have an idea of what my wife once said. She had a rather checkered past. I know she didn't have a penny to her name before she married.
Well, Colonel, we must be on our way. I would appreciate it if you'd mail me a copy of the coroner's findings to 221B, Baker Street.
Glad to, Mr. Holmes. But I hope you will be disappointed.
Mr. Holmes, you might stop lolling in that chair and staring vacantly into space and lend me a hand with our packing. Our train leaves in half an hour.
Eh? Oh, all right. I can't help wondering, though.
Oh, wondering what?
About those footprints.
Holmes, you're getting morbid. Either of the ladies hit Hollis over the head, there would have been a mark. I could swear there was no such mark on the body.
Possibly, but still.
And if he was poisoned, the coroner's report will show it.
But if he were neither hit over the head nor poisoned...
Oh, but how else could a frail little woman like Lady Diana overcome a robust man like her husband? Just wasting your time, Holmes, if you ask me.
I didn't.
Didn't what?
Ask you.
Oh, there you are. Well, that finishes my packing. I only wish I had time for a tub before the train.
What did you say?
I said I only wish I had time for a bath before the train. I'm a bit on the salty side since I sailed this morning.
By Jove, Watson. Thank you.
What are you talking about?
Yes, it's a possibility. A distinct possibility. Come on, forget that train. You and I are going to pay a visit to Dr. Miller, the coroner.
But it's fantastic, Mr. Holmes. I've never heard of such a thing.
That doesn't mean that it's impossible, Dr. Miller. You are certain that you found no bruises on the body?
Absolutely.
I'll stake my professional reputation on that.
No traces of poison?
None.
Oh, it just occurred to me, supposing that Lord Hollis's heart had given out, huh?
Unfortunately for your hypothesis, Dr. Watson, Lord Hollis's heart was in extremely sound shape. No, the evidence shows conclusively that it was death by drowning, and I am so stating in my report.
You see, Holmes, I told you.
Nevertheless, I would still like to see the body, Dr. Miller. Very well, very well. It's in here. You see that I've already got along fairly well with the post-mortem. Now, gentlemen, it won't take long to discover if the idea that Dr. Watson so brilliantly suggested to me is a valid one. Your idea, Dr. Watson?
Oh, don't ask me, Dr. Miller. I haven't the faintest idea what Holmes is driving at.
The body's lungs are filled with water. Not unnatural in a man who's been drowned.
Well, at least it proves that he was alive when he went into the water.
I knew it. This was no accident, gentlemen. It was murder.
Murder?
It can't be.
How do you know, Holmes?
Lord Hollis was supposed to have drowned in the sea before the very eyes of Dr. Watson and myself. There's no mark on his body and his lungs are full of water. But that water, gentlemen, is not salt water as it should be. It is fresh water.
In just a moment, we'll return to Sherlock Holmes as he endeavors to solve the mystery of the strange death of Lord Hollis. Men, it's never too late to help improve the appearance of your hair. And when you buy a hair tonic, why not buy one that does lots more than just keep hair looking handsome? Why not get your money's worth and buy Kreml hair tonic? No other hair tonic keeps the hair more neatly groomed and attractive looking. Kreml gives hair that handsome, clean-cut appearance, as if your barber had just combed it. In addition, Kreml is simply great to lubricate a dry scalp. At the same time, it removes itchy, loose dandruff and leaves the scalp feeling so clean, refreshed, and alive. No wonder Kreml is preferred among America's most prosperous men. Buy a bottle of Kreml at any drug counter. Ask for an application at your barber shop. Use this highly specialized hair tonic daily for better groomed hair, a more hygienic scalp. Kreml, Kreml hair tonic. Now, Dr. Watson, what happened after Sherlock Holmes' startling discovery that the late Lord Hollis had been drowned in fresh water?
We returned to our hotel with all thoughts of going back to London in abeyance. Holmes paced up and down, deep in thought. His pipe was clenched in his jaws, and the room was blue with the fumes of tobacco.
Fiendishly clever plot, Watson, and one which came within the tiniest margin of succeeding.
Well, I can't argue with the evidence, Holmes, but I still fail to see how a little slip of a girl such as Lady Hollis could forcibly overpower and drown a strong, active man, unless you're suggesting that her husband was so drunk as to be in a stupor when he was killed.
Not at all. There is one set of circumstances under which even a small person would have no difficulty in drowning a much larger one. Come here, Watson, and I'll give you a demonstration. Now, if you'll seat yourself in the bath and imagine for a moment that you are Lord Hollis.
Well, it feels rather silly, though.
Excellent. Now, lean back in the tub, relaxing, enjoying your imaginary bath.
All right, now what?
In the part of Lady Diana, I enter, walk over to you with some casual remark, and suddenly do this. You see? Pulling a person's feet suddenly upward while he's in the tub, and there's your result.
Oh, all right, Rodolfo, all right. But dash it all, will you let go my feet?
If that tub had been full of water, my dear fellow, your head would now be submerged despite your most violent struggles. And in that position, as you can see, it is utterly impossible to get a grip on the sides of the tub.
Yes, most convincing. I shall keep my bathroom door locked in the future when I'm having a bath.
The difficulty, Watson, rests not in convincing you, but a jury. Our evidence is slender in the extreme. A clever defense lawyer would have no difficulty in tearing so tenuous a thread apart, if I know anything about juries.
You mean to tell me, Holmes, that the perpetrator of so fiendish and cold-blooded a crime is to be allowed to go free?
Let me call your attention, Watson, to the fact that both Lady Diana and Miss Cartwright, beneath their frail and helpless exteriors, must be women of the utmost resolution and determination. Perhaps the two of them had planned out the whole grisly business far in advance. At any rate, after Lady Diana drowned him, they must have taken the dead man from the tub, dressed him, and together, one at his feet and one at his head, carried him down to their boat. That, of course, accounts for the deep indentations of their footprints.
But Lord Hollis's prints?
Very simple. Once the body was in the boat with Miss Cartwright guarding it, Lady Diana walked down the shore below high tide mark and up to the house by another route.
I see. And then she put on a pair of Lord Hollis's shoes, walked down to the boat, thus creating the prints that were supposed to be his.
Quite so. Then they sailed out, waited until some boat was near enough for their signals of distress to be visible, slid the body overboard, and began to act out their little drama.
It all hangs together.
As an explanation, yes. As evidence, no. And as I told you at the beginning, Watson, those two women are not the type whom a simple accusation will break down. You can wager that the loyal Miss Cartwright will guard her mistress's secret with her life. And as for Lady Diana, a woman capable of killing her husband in so diabolically clever a manner will not break under accusation. She'd be more likely to sue for slander.
What on earth are you going to do, Holmes?
You've sometimes told me that I have queer friends in London, Watson.
Hmm?
I have a plan which depends upon one of them. I shall go out to London tonight. Meanwhile, I want you to make discreet inquiries from Lord Hollis's bankers and his lawyer and see what evidence you can obtain as to his financial affairs. I feel that we may find a large part of the motive there.
Right you are, Holmes. When will you return?
If all goes well, I'll be back tomorrow night. I want you to call on Lady Diana and engage her and Miss Cartwright in conversation at precisely 9 o'clock tomorrow evening. Don't fail me, Watson. It is vital that you carry through your part.
I appreciate your kindness in visiting me, Dr. Watson. I'd been under the impression that you and Mr. Holmes left yesterday for London.
No, we decided to remain in Brighton for a few more days, Lady Diana.
Some tea, Dr. Watson.
No, thank you, Scarlett.
And where is Mr. Holmes? I hope to have the opportunity of thanking him in person for all you both did.
Holmes? Mr. Holmes, I don't quite know where he is at the moment. He's a difficult fellow to keep track of, you know.
Wasn't it the front doorbell, Carter? Yes. I'll go. The servants have retired.
Can I offer you some other refreshment, Dr. Watson? Perhaps you'd like some brandy.
No, thank you. I never touch it.
Good evening, Lady Diana. Watson.
Good evening, Mr. Holmes. I was just telling Dr. Watson that I hoped you'd give me the opportunity of...
I'm afraid you're under a misapprehension, Lady Diana. I'm not calling upon you in a social capacity.
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Really, Mr. Holmes, your behavior is rather odd, to say the least.
I found your notes at the hotel, Watson, where you'd left them for me. They complete the picture very thoroughly.
Unless you can give some other explanation of your conduct, Mr. Holmes, I must ask you to leave at once.
I am about to offer you an explanation, Lady Diana, although it is one you will not like. I am accusing you, with Miss Cartwright as accessory, of the murder of your late husband.
Mr. Holmes, how dare you?
I can only suppose that your trade of chastening criminals has turned your brain. I could sue you for slander, but I won't. I won't dignify your insane accusation by doing so.
You see, Watson, just as I expected. Lady Diana, Dr. Watson's investigations have revealed some interesting facts. Your late husband was an extremely wealthy man, and you are his sole legatee. You yourself were penniless when you married Lord Hollis, a man 25 years older than you. Yesterday morning, he had a bath while drunk, and you entered his bathroom and drowned him. You and Miss Cartwright put the body on the boat, duplicated your husband's footprints, and staged the accident which Watson and I witnessed.
Changed my mind, Mr. Holmes. I shall sue you for slander, for every penny that I can obtain.
Well said, my dear. This man should be made to pay for his vile accusations.
Well, you better sue me at the same time, Lady Diana. I associate myself with everything that Holmes has said.
Thank you, Watson. But before you start suit, Lady Diana, I want you to show me the late Lord Hollis's bathroom.
Don't do it, Lady Diana. I'll awaken the servants and have these men thrown out.
I shall do it, Carty. Only to prove to this fool how baseless his suspicions are. Come with me. This way up the stairs.
Here, my dear. Let me go ahead with the lamp.
There is the door of my late husband's bath. Open it, look for yourself. Although what you expect to find...
It's Edward! Carty, Carty!
Careful, there goes the lamp.
I told you he'd come back, Carty. You said we'd be safe.
Shut up! You're not okay. I won't. You told me nothing could happen. You said it was foolproof. Now he's come back. I always said he was.
Watson, fetch Colonel Sheridan. He and the inspector are waiting outside. think the streets will look extremely inviting, Watson, after the explosions and alarms of the last 48 hours?
It certainly will, but with all the excitement after that woman dropped the lamp and the police inspector taking down Lady Diana's confession, I still haven't found out how you managed the whole thing.
The return of the late Lord Hollis, you mean? It was really quite simple. One of my many friends in London is one of the artists who makes all those clever waxwork figures for Madame Tussauds museum. He made me a most lifelike and convincing replica of the late Lord Hollis, working from a photograph furnished by the local portrait studio.
Great Scott, and while I held those two women in conversation in the drawing room, you entered the house and smuggled the figure into the bathroom.
Precisely, my dear fellow. As I told you, only a very sudden and intense shock would ever have scared a confession out of that extremely self-possessed murderess, Lady Diana, and her evil genius, Miss Cartwright.
Shock? I don't mind telling you, Holmes, that if I'd been carrying that lamp, I'd have dropped it myself when I saw that figure. Took 10 years off my life.
Most fortunate to have as our distinguished guest this evening one of the foremost beauty authorities in this country, Mr. John Robert Powers. Mr. Powers is often called a king of glamour because he has glorified so many of America's most beautiful women, his famous Powers girls. And now, especially transcribed, Mr. John Robert Powers.
Good evening, friends. I don't know if I can live up to a king of glamour, but I certainly have a queen of glamour here this evening, one of my most beautiful Powers girls, Miss Jackie Halsey. Have you something you'd like to say to the audience, Jackie?
Yes, Mr. Powers, I have. I'd like to give you a big vote of thanks for telling me to always use Kreml shampoo. No other shampoo I've ever used leaves my hair more shining bright with such a natural, glossy luster.
Yes, Jackie, Kreml shampoo has been especially developed to glamour bathe each tiny strand of hair. You simply can't beat Kreml shampoo for its wonderful cleansing, beautifying action.
It never dries the hair.
That's because it has a built-in oil base. Kreml shampoo actually helps keep the hair from becoming dry or brittle.
And Kreml shampoo whips up such a luxuriant active foam even in the hardest water. It rinses out so easily and leaves the hair a vision of shining beauty.
And that's why I urge every woman to try Kreml shampoo. It's so mild, so gentle, so remarkably beautifying as it uncovers and reflects the natural brilliant highlights that lie concealed in every woman's hair. And it takes only 10 minutes to give your hair this wonderful glamour bath.
Thank you so much, Mr. Powers, and your very charming Powers girl, Miss Jackie Halsey. And now, Dr. Watson, what about next week?
Well, now, let me see. Next week, I think I'll tell you a story that's always been one of my favorites. I'd call it The Red-Headed League. It began with a strange, fantastic tale told us by a Mr. Jabez Wilson and ended with a dreadful midnight vigil in the subterranean vaults beneath the City and Suburban Bank.
Tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure was suggested by an incident in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's story, The Adventure of the Veiled Lodger. Nigel Bruce appeared through the courtesy of Universal International Pictures. Tom Conway by permission of Eagle Lion Pictures. The Sherlock Holmes series is produced by Tom McKnight, with original music composed and conducted by Alex Steiner. This is Joseph Bell, speaking for Kreml Hair Tonic and Kreml Shampoo, and inviting you to be with us next week at this same time, when Dr. Watson will tell us about the Red-Headed League. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. Well, this one was more of a Hal Ketchum once Holmes deduced what had really occurred here in terms of it being a homicide. It was a little theatrical method to catch the killer, but Sherlock Holmes got it done. Well, we turn now to listener comments and feedback, and we have a new entry in the favorite Sherlock Holmes. Daniel from North Carolina says, I just wanted to weigh in on the Sherlock Holmes debate. My favorite Sherlock Holmes is Brent Spiner playing Data, playing Sherlock Holmes on Star Trek The Next Generation. Thanks, Dan. Don't know how many other votes we'll get for that position. We also have a couple other reviews on iTunes. Comment from Cashmont 2001. Adam, I love your podcast. You do a great job, and I enjoy all the information you give us about each show, and thank you for all the time and effort you put into this podcast and Dragnet. And then Texas Girl, New York City, writes, these are great shows. I appreciate the work Adam puts in to give us some background on the shows we're hearing. He puts the shows in context of what was going on at the time, both in Hollywood and in the rest of the world. Thank you so much for your comments, and that'll do it for now. We will be back tomorrow with yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Well, before we do get started, I want to encourage you, as you make your travel plans for the fall, remember Johnny Dollar Air. JohnnyDollarAir.com is powered by Priceline, which means you choose. Either you can name your own price on hotels, rental cars, airline tickets, and even more, or you can choose from published fares. Plus, if you do go through JohnnyDollarAir.com, part of the purchase goes to support the great detectives of old-time radio. So remember, go to JohnnyDollarAir.com first. Now it's time for today's episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, the Douglas Taylor Matter.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
This is Lieutenant Reese down at Homicide.
Oh, good morning, Lieutenant.
Did you hire a private detective named Douglas Taylor?
Yeah, I did. Why?
He was found dead this morning.
Dead?
Yeah, shot to death. I want you to come down and answer a few questions.
Edmund O'Brien in another adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Great Eastern Insurance Company, Hartford. I don't know how much responsibility you'll want to take for these expenses, but I hope you realize that a large share of them were incurred in an effort to protect the company. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Douglas Taylor matter. Expense account item 1, $1.20, cab fare from my apartment to Hartford Police Headquarters, Homicide Division.
Yes, sir?
My name is Dollar, Lieutenant Reeves.
Oh, yeah, second door there. He's waiting. Just go right in.
Thanks. Lieutenant Reeves?
Yes. You Dollar?
That's right.
Thanks for coming down.
Well, I can't say it's a pleasure, Lieutenant. I'm sorry to hear about Taylor. What happened?
We don't know yet.
Where did it happen?
We aren't sure of that either. He was found out by the freight yards, but chances are he was shot someplace else and dumped there.
How did you happen to land on me?
His wife came down to identify him this morning. She told us he was working for you.
Well, I might as well get this off my chest now, Lieutenant. You won't like it any better if I save it. I can't answer any questions about what Taylor and I were working on. Not now.
Why not?
Because it'll wreck a case that could be worth about $500,000 if you start nosing into it looking for a motive.
I hate to see you turn uncooperative so early in the game, Dollar.
I can't help it. There are usually plenty of motives around when it's a private detective. Got plenty of other places to start.
We like to have them all. I don't like this.
I don't either, Lieutenant. But I'm stuck with some confidences I'll have to stand by. I can tell you this. I don't see how my case could have anything to do with his dying. There are two men suspected of insurance fraud. I was following one, Taylor the other.
I don't think they knew we were tailing them.
All right, Dollar. I guess I can understand the spot you're on.
I'll talk it over with the people that hired me, but I can't open it up until they give me the word.
How long had you known him?
Oh, about 2 years, I guess. Not well, but he was a good, careful worker, and I hired him when I needed somebody.
Did he talk to you about any trouble?
No. Well, he never said a word.
How well do you know his wife?
I met her twice, that's all. Both times she came with Taylor when I had a check for him. She seemed like that kind of a wife.
That's as well as you knew him, huh?
That's it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It brings us back to that $500,000 you mentioned, doesn't it? That's enough to hold you on, you know.
I knew that when I told you. It's up to you.
Beat it. If you ever need some help from us, I hope I'm on hand to turn you down.
I didn't need to see him to know that Lieutenant Reese had put a plainclothesman on me as soon as I left the building, because I would have done the same in his place. So I went back to my apartment and phoned the news to the company.
I hope you've done the right thing, Johnny. I think you have.
Well, I can always change it, Mr. Nibley, but I know one thing. If I stay on the arson case, the police are going to get on it and mess it up.
Yes, I suppose our problem is nothing to them. Are you positive there's no connection with Taylor's death?
Well, not positive, but fairly sure. Anyway, I think I'd better drop it for a while. If you'll put a couple of men on it, all we have to know is if either one contacts a professional firebug. If and when that happens, I have all the rest of the evidence we'll need.
All right, I guess that's the way to handle it. Well, what about Taylor's wife? Did she know anything about the case?
I don't think so, or Lieutenant Reese would have found out from her. But I'll have to go see her. I'll find out.
All right, Johnny. I want to thank you for this. You can be sure the company appreciates it, and I feel awful about what happened.
Yeah, so do I. I hired him.
It's all right, Mr. Dollar. I'm glad you came over. Doug spoke obvious so often. Sit down.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Well, there's no way for me to say what I feel about it.
Of course there is.
I do want to clear your mind and my conscience on one thing, though. Doug wasn't killed because he was working for me. I'm sure of that.
Wouldn't have made any difference if he had been. Doug was 40 last month. He was 21 when I married him in New York. He was on the force there for 12 years before he opened his office here. I've been waiting for this to happen all these years. Can you understand that?
I think so.
I tried not to think of it, but not a day passed that I didn't. Now that it's happened, it's like so many things are supposed to be. The anticipation was so bad, I thought that another detective might understand.
I think I do. Mrs. Taylor, did Doug talk his cases over with you?
No, not for a long time.
You knew he was working for me.
Yes, he mentioned it, but that's all. He liked you a great deal.
He didn't speak of any trouble or the chance of any?
No. I suppose it's my fault that he didn't. He knew I worried too much as it was, and he never told me anything.
Do you know if there would be any specific reason for his being killed? I mean, outside of his work.
What do you mean?
Well, it'll sound like a rotten thing to ask, but was there anyone else in his life?
You mean a woman?
Yeah.
I don't think so. If there was, I didn't know about it.
You don't sound quite sure.
I'm not. I did suspect him. That was one of the things that kept gnawing at me all those years. But I never found out anything.
I hope you're telling me everything, Mrs. Taylor.
I am. That's the way it was, being married to him. I was alone so much, I know I thought about things too much, but I couldn't help it.
Yeah. Who were some of his friends, Mrs. Taylor? I don't remember that he ever mentioned any to me.
We had a few friends here in the neighborhood. And there's the man who was his partner for a while, Henry Varner.
Never heard of him. Where is he?
He's the house detective at the Hotel Millard.
How close were they?
Well, they were good friends. They hunted and fished. Oh.
Have the police been here?
No, do I have to talk to them?
I don't think it'd be wise to try not to. You want me to let him in?
No. No, I'll let him in.
Oh, Mrs. Taylor. Do you feel up to answering some questions now?
Yes. Yes, I'm all right.
Thanks. I'll try not to take any more of it.
Lieutenant Reese?
Got everything taken care of?
What does that mean?
Did you get her story rehearsed?
Climb off, Lieutenant. I don't play that way.
What's this man doing here, Mrs. Taylor?
Why, my husband was working for Mr. Dollar when he was killed, so he came to see me.
Has he been asking you questions?
Yes.
What kind?
Look, Lieutenant,
Never mind, Dollar. What kind of questions, Mrs. Taylor?
About Doug being killed.
Did he tell you how to answer police questions?
No. That never came up.
Dollar, how much information on this insurance case did Taylor have in his office?
No reason for him to have any. Why?
The office had been torn to pieces by the time we got to it this morning. All or part of the motive was there, and somebody came back after it. You'd better clear yourself of this mess, Dollar, or I'm going to see to it that you're put right out of business.
I had to wait until 7 that evening before I could get to Henry Varner, the hotel detective Mrs. Taylor had spoken of. He was the slight dark type with a hairline mustache and too much aftershave powder. The kind of house dick that usually causes the feminine guests the kind of trouble they're paid to stop.
Yeah, I had a little deal cooked up this afternoon, the kind where you don't leave a phone number where you can be reached. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
What a doll. Hey, what's behind this Doug Taylor mess anyway? I haven't read the evening papers.
Hasn't broken yet. His wife told me you and Doug were good friends.
Oh, yeah. We used to be partners for a while. We used to get out of town once in a while.
Hunting and fishing?
Yeah, that was a pitch.
When did you see him last?
Let's get out of the lobby and go in the office, John. It seems to me the last time I saw Doug was around the middle of last week. He stopped by here on the way home.
Was he on a case?
I don't remember him saying. You know, it was one of those things I asked him how it was going. He said the same old stuff. He get killed over one of his cases?
Looks like it. His office was broken into. Somebody after one of his reports or something, the police say.
Seems to me he was awful fed up the last few nights we got together. A couple of times he mentioned there was going to be a change. He was going to go back to New York or to Florida or out west someplace.
With or without his wife?
Without, I think. She's a creep. You know, jealous and all that stuff. The poor guy had to sneak the money to spend when we got together.
What about the money for this change he mentioned?
I don't have any idea. Never followed it up because I thought he was just dreaming. Hey, who's paying you for this? Not his wife.
Nobody. I'm trying to clear myself with the police. They think I'm holding out information on them.
Oh, how come?
He was working with me when he was killed. What made you think his wife might have hired me?
I was wondering if she hired you before to put a tail on.
Say, just for the four walls of me, do you think she'd be capable of killing him?
Oh, yeah. One of those fits of hers. I really think she's a little off. Sure. If she got wind he was really leaving, if she figured he had some dough hidden in the office, yeah.
That's what I meant.
Sure, it could all fit. Maybe you got something.
He owned a car, didn't he? Police say the body was driven to the freight yard and dumped.
Yeah, it was a sedan. You might have some.
Well, I'll go see. Thanks for the time, Varner. It was dark by the time I got across town again and back to the Taylor duplex. I happened to look up at their second-floor apartment, and I saw a light switch on behind a drawn shade in one of their rooms. If I hadn't done that, a number of things would not have taken place. Mrs. Taylor? Mrs. Taylor, it's Johnny Dollar. Come on, I know you're in there. Let me in.
All right.
Hey, what's this?
Come in here, I'll kill you.
Yeah, sure.
Don't get close to me. I'll move right across the room.
Where's Mrs. Taylor?
She's in the bedroom. Maybe she's dead. I don't know. I hit her. She wouldn't be quiet, and I hit her with a gun. And I'll kill you, too, if I have to. I don't care how many anymore.
Why'd you kill Taylor?
Because he was too filthy to stay alive, too dirty, rotten to live. Don't you try to follow me, or I'll kill you, too, and I mean it. Nothing means anything anymore.
What are you fighting? What'd you come after?
Don't you try to follow me.
Hey, come here. Hey, come here. I had no intention of stepping out into the hall right then. He was young and obviously out of his head from fear. I hoped the shots he fired would alert the plainclothesman that I thought was still sticking to me, but he wasn't there. If I tried to lose him, it probably would have taken a week. But as I learned later, a split-second set of circumstances caused him to miss me when I left the hotel. And Douglas Taylor's killer simply disappeared into the night.
We will return you to yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment. 2 more great shows climb aboard your CBS radio bandwagon tomorrow night. Eve Arden as wisecracking our Miss Brooks returns to dear old Madison High. And the Edgar Bergen, Charlie McCarthy show resumes its pot shots at your sense of humor. Listen for Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, and Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy back in business on most of these stations tomorrow night. Now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we bring you the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Mrs. Taylor had been knocked unconscious, but hadn't been seriously harmed. I phoned Lieutenant Reese, argued some tenants into going back to their dinners, and then did what I could for her.
He was crazy. He was crazy. He said he'd kill me.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right now.
When I screamed, he came at me. I knew he was going to kill me. I knew it. I knew that was the last thing I'd ever see. His face is a gun going.
Take it easy, Miss Taylor. Take it easy. He's gone, and you're all right now.
Oh, I can't explain. I knew I was dying, and I tried to hang on, and I couldn't.
Here. Can you drink some more of this? Huh?
Yes. I'll try. You saw him, didn't you?
Yeah, I saw him.
Who was he?
Hadn't you ever seen him before?
No, never. He was crazy. He told me that he killed Doug, and he killed me, too.
What else did he say?
I couldn't understand. Something about how Doug ruined 2 lives, and I wished he could kill him again. Then I screamed and he came.
What he said mean anything to you?
No. I didn't understand any of it. I wanted to ask him why he came here.
Yeah, he was looking for something. Tore the place to pieces. It must be the same one that broke into Doug's office.
I don't understand any of it. Oh, I'm so scared. He was going to kill me.
Please, Mrs. Taylor. Come on. Now, come on. Try to relax. Get hold of yourself. Police are on their way, and they'll want to talk to you. I'll wait for them in the living room.
You didn't think he was going to wait in the hall all night, did you? Why didn't you go out after him?
One of your men has been tailing me since morning. I thought he'd be outside and that the 2 shots would wake him up. Where was he?
How hard did you make yourself to follow?
I didn't give him any trouble. A Boy Scout could have stayed on me.
Then Parker is probably following the boy. How long did you have to study him?
Less than a minute, but I think I can give you a fair description.
Let's have it.
Well, he's about 5'9", between 17 and 20 years old, I'd say. Fair complexion, small features, brown wavy hair, brown eyes, very white teeth, and what looked like a mole above his right eyebrow.
No other marks?
Not that I saw. He's wearing a ring on his left hand. I couldn't see it too well, but it could have been a class ring.
How about clothes?
Well, no hat, white shirt without tie, it was open, flannel slacks, brown tweed jacket, and brown wingtip shoes. His clothes were well cut, looked expensive.
What kind of gun?
Revolver, Smith & Wesson, .38 with a black rubber hand grip.
You're sure of all this?
Of course I'm sure. You think I'm making it up?
I can't forget you're holding out a $500,000 motive on me.
You'll feel better if you do. You talked to witnesses that heard the shots, didn't you?
You could have fired them.
With what? I'm not carrying a gun.
You could have got rid of one.
Go look for it, Lieutenant. Then you can stop making an ass of yourself.
Watch it, Dollar.
You're doing a pretty good job of needling me. If you'll stop riding your badge for a little while, we can get together and make some sense.
Go ahead.
Doesn't it seem obvious that Taylor had something on this kid? Something big enough to be his motive? There must be a record of it. The kid missed it at the office, or he wouldn't have come here. And I'm sure he didn't take anything out of the apartment. So it must be around someplace.
If you're all through, go sit down someplace.
What's the matter with it?
It's nothing, that's all. We've gone through every file that was in Taylor's office, and we went through this apartment. There's nothing hot enough for a killing. Nothing.
Then why did the kid show up here?
I'll work on that when I'm convinced he did. None of the witnesses saw him, you know. Nobody did. Nobody but you and your friend, the widow, in there.
It turned out to be a long night. Looking back at it now, I can see how the lieutenant felt justified in pushing around somebody who wouldn't cooperate. For that night it was tough, including a paraffin test that he called inconclusive because I could have been wearing a glove when I fired the 2 shots and then gotten rid of it. But finally, at about 1:15 in the morning, he got tired of it and he let me go home. I didn't leave my apartment the next day except to go out after the extra editions that called me the private investigator whose position and importance in regard to the case is not clear at the moment. At 9 that night, I was at home again and the door buzzer sounded. I thought it was a delivery boy bringing some liquor I'd ordered. Hey, you're fast.
Go on. Get back inside.
What do you want here?
Go on, back up or I'll kill you. You know I will, don't you?
You look crazy enough to. But it'd be stupid. You'd never get out of this apartment building. What's the matter with you anyway? What do you want?
You were in with Douglas Taylor, weren't you?
What do you mean?
He told us about you.
When did he tell you?
That he brought somebody else in for protection. He said we'd never find out who it was. But I did find out, didn't I?
You're pretty mixed up about something, aren't you?
Oh, don't lie to me. If you'd only stopped when he told us you were going to, none of this would have happened. But you didn't. He kept coming back. We told him to have to stop some way. We couldn't pay anymore. We got nothing left.
Now, wait a minute.
Now, you wait. Now, he had a file on me, and I gotta have it. And if you don't give it to me, I'll kill you. We've gotta have it.
I haven't got it.
Ah, that's what he said, and it didn't do any good. I killed him anyway. It won't do you any good to lie now.
I'm not lying.
Yes, you are. It won't do you any good. Don't you know that?
You're way wrong. Now, listen to me.
No, I won't.
You told me that you killed Taylor because he lied to you, didn't you?
Yes, I told you.
And I believe you. I believe that you'd kill anybody who you thought was lying to you.
And I will.
I know you would. Now, listen. Since I know that if I had a choice of telling you the truth and saving my life or lying when I knew you'd kill me, wouldn't I tell you the truth?
Well...
Huh? If I had your file or whatever it is, wouldn't I give it to you to save my life?
All right, then give it to me.
I don't have it. I don't have anything of yours. I don't know who you are. I don't know your name. All I know is that you're wrong. You're mixed up, confused. You think I'm someone I'm not.
Oh, Taylor told me about you.
What did he say to make you so sure that he meant me?
You came to his apartment. You were the only one, and you were in the paper.
If I was mixed up in anything with Taylor, I wouldn't have come to the apartment. I would have stayed as far away as I could. Don't you see how wrong you are? You've got everything wrong.
But you knew him?
A lot of people knew him. I hired him once in a while, that's all. I don't know what you're talking about. You can believe that.
Well, and I gotta go.
Where? You don't know where to go, do you?
Oh, I shouldn't have come. If I'd been able to think, I wouldn't have come. But I don't think anymore. I just do things. My life's all winding up, and it goes faster and faster, and I can't stop it.
And, Douglas Taylor did all this to you?
No, not all of it. Part of it I did myself.
I don't know anything about it or about you. I feel sorry for you. You're driving yourself crazy, aren't you?
I did what I had to do.
Now, why don't you sit down and...
Hey, what's that? Who's that? Don't you try to answer it.
I won't. It's just a boy bringing some liquor inside the door.
You're lying. The police, they're coming in.
No, it isn't the police. He just put the liquor down against the door. See? Now he's gone.
I don't believe you.
Why would the police come here?
Because they're looking for him.
Not in my apartment. You can believe that. See? There's nobody there anymore. The police would be breaking in by now.
Yeah, it was a delivery boy.
Sure it was. You got nothing to be afraid of.
I don't think anymore.
You're a nervous wreck. You know why?
Yeah, I know.
Because you're fighting something you know you can never beat.
I've been doing that all right.
Don't you know you'd be 100 times better off if you gave yourself up to Taylor's killing?
No, I can't do that.
Why not?
I can't. I gotta get away.
You'll never get away from this.
Then I'll die.
Taylor was black. What did he have on you?
How did you know that?
There'll be a lot of it these days. Be as bad off as you think if you...
This isn't even important any... Go.
What is important like this, huh? A family?
What makes you think
Because it sticks out all over you. A father with a fur collar on his overcoat and a mother who belongs to every civic club in town.
All right, and a sister engaged to a lawyer. That's why I can't give myself up and have our name all over the papers. That's why I gotta find that file Taylor had and get rid of it and then get away. I've almost ruined the family now. Dad's been bled dry, keeping Taylor from turning my name in. And now they don't have to pay anymore.
What do they think about his being dead?
Well, they asked me, and I told them I didn't do it. I think they believe me. It's all right. Anyway, it's better now than it has been for the last 2 years.
That long?
Yeah, 2 years. It started when Dad got a feeling about what I was doing. He hired Taylor to find out, and when he finished his job, that's what he threw at us. Hey, wait a minute. Where you going now? Wait a minute.
I'm going to get a light, if that's okay. I live here, you know.
I gotta go. I don't know why I've talked like this.
You wanted someone to talk to. I'm not as sorry for you as I was, because I think you're playing it stupid.
Well, I don't care what you think. I did what I had to do, and I know what I gotta do now.
You ought to give yourself up, and you know it. Now, I'm through talking sense. If you want to blow it all up your way, go ahead.
I know what I have to do.
There's nothing you can do.
Now, look. I want you to come down to the ground floor with me. All right, we'll use the stairway. And you know that I'll kill you if I have to.
I've gathered that, yes. Well, anytime you want to leave. There are enough people on the sidewalk to stop him, but I didn't start anything because I knew that he would open up with his .38 without thinking about who might get hit. He had the fear-crazed look in his eyes again as he left me just outside the entrance and started across the street. I realized what was going to happen before he did. Either he had been spotted and followed, or my building had been staked out. It didn't make any difference. When the police officers saw us together, it was all they needed.
Hey, you! Stay where you are! What do you want? We're police. We want to talk to you. What about? This is a break! Hold it! Hold it! All right, Parker! Marlin! Stop him!
The family turned out to be the Bardets, the father a judge, and so on. The son got at least one wish. He didn't live to stand trial for murder. But as far as protecting his family, he'd done nothing. The whole story rocked Hartford for weeks following. Expense account item 2, miscellaneous, $180. Expense account total, $181.20. Remarks? For a number of reasons, I'm sorry I had to drop the arson case for this interlude, but somehow a $500,000 loss, which I couldn't have prevented anyway, doesn't seem as important as the destruction of an entire family. And I couldn't prevent that either. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd with music by Wilbur Hatch. Edmund O'Brien will soon be seen starring in the Paramount picture Silver City. Featured in tonight's cast were Ray Hartman, Joseph Kearns, Edgar Barrier, Jeanette Nolan, and Hy Averback. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. This is Dick Cutting, inviting you to join us next week at this time when Edmund O'Brien returns as
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Uncle Sam gave 36 million pounds of U.S. farm surplus eggs and milk to save the Yugoslavs, but somebody had to pay the freight. CARE undertook to raise it from the American people, and at $5.35 per 300-pound package, the people gave. 3 million Yugoslav mothers and children have already received the CARE eggs and milk, but with a month to go before winter closes down the program, 1 million remain to be reached. You can reach 100 with only $5.35. Mail it to your local CARE office, or to CARE Los Angeles, or CARE New York. The Vaughn Monroe Show is back from vacation. Vaughn, the Moon Maids, the Moon Men, Ziggy Talent, and their singing guest stars will again be heard every Saturday beginning tonight. In fact, on most of these same CBS radio stations, Vaughn Returns to Action takes place immediately following station identification. And remember, The Frankie Lane Show is your date with slick syncopation every Sunday afternoon on the CBS Radio Network.
Welcome back. Well, one thing I learned from this episode is that you can have liquor delivered. I was never aware such services existed. And we got to see Raymond Burr as the lieutenant. And for those who've been with us for a while, Burr's characterization here was very reminiscent of his role of Inspector Hellman from Pat Novak for Hire. There were a couple times there where I thought, hey, what last time we saw you, Inspector, weren't you on another network in San Francisco? Plus, when he was suggesting that Johnny had concocted the entire story about seeing the killer, that was kind of a bit much. One thing I don't think was explored is I think that other private eye that Johnny talked to was actually the one that Douglas Taylor had said that he had brought in on the case for the blackmail, but apparently was not necessary to the solution of the plot, which was the murder of Douglas Taylor. Alright, well, we do have a review, this one on iTunes, and it's of only our Johnny Dollar shows, because we've got feeds for all of the programs, except for Barrie Craig, which we'll be adding soon. Comment, I really do enjoy this old show. Well, thanks so much, and thanks for listening out there. That will do it for this week. I do want to remind you, on Saturdays, you can listen to the Old Time Dragnet podcast every Saturday night over at RadioDragnet.com. The Old Time Radio Superman program. New episodes added every Sunday and Wednesday. LaserandSword.com. Of course, if you've got comments on this show, email at box13@greatdetectives.net, Twitter at Radio Detectives, and become one of our friends on Facebook, facebook.com/Radio Detectives. We're up to 850 friends, and we'd like you to join it, hopefully get up above 900 before the show's second anniversary coming up in October. But from Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off, wishing you a great weekend. We'll see you back on Monday with Barrie Craig, and next Friday with another episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.